Hello and welcome to the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. We are back, and it is the 16th of November, and we are here in Wellington at the Respawn Esports Centre. It is time for the live finals, and we have our competitors in the other room. We're here in the commentary box. We are ready to go racing today with a qualifying, a sprint, and a feature race. And the winner of all of that will have the most championship points, and they will be taking home the grand prize today, of course, provided by Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. We'll talk about that prize very, very soon, amongst others. In the commentary and broadcasting booth today, you have myself, George Cook, and Nathan Howe. Nathan, you've travelled all the way down here. We're all set up and ready to go. Finally, after a month gap since the online season, which was 6 rounds long, now it all comes down to this.
Yeah, this has been a massively anticipated live final event. Like you say, we're here in the heart of Wellington in the CBD. What an awesome place to host a live final event. And, you sort of mentioned it yourself. Heck of a prize on offer too. A fully funded test drive in a Toyota 86 Cup car. Current spec racing car too. Not just some old, they had it in the back. A proper current Toyota GT86 race car. That's a pretty, as far as prizes go, that's pretty up there.
It's pretty up there, and of course we have prizes for the second and third places as well. They'll be provided by Next Level Racing, and in fact we've got some graphics to show people what they're in for, so let's take a quick look and we'll be right back. Awesome prizes up for grabs. Second place will get that GT cockpit, and then third place will be getting the set of haptics. Haptics are super, super cool. So really excited about all the prizes, but it's the grand prize that is what is everyone trying to get today. It is a big, big, big prize. We have, of course, our drivers. We'll go through them very, very soon, but a key note here, we do have a few that haven't been able to make it. It is really unfortunate. Sometimes the logistics doesn't work out, and in the case of Gareth Collier, unfortunately, his flight was cancelled, so it's a real shame not to see Gareth here today. And there's a number of others that didn't make it into the top 10. You had to be in that top 10 with the driver points across the online season, 6 rounds of racing. If you didn't get into that top 10, you didn't have a shot. But with a few people who weren't able to make it, there's a couple of slots that opened up. Exactly right. So obviously the format today, it's all about championship points. Driver points have been accumulated through the online season over the last 2 or so months. That equated to your position in the top 10. The top 10 are here today at the live finals, and they have been given some championship points depending on their finishing position within the online season. That puts Matthew McKeown, who got the most points in the online season, in the top spots. He's got 6 championship points under his belt already. Then Rhys Davidson, also known as Big Head Ted, known for his drifting capabilities, let's put it that way. 5 points to his name as he heads into this championship round. And then Gareth Collier, again, we said it a little bit early on. Unfortunately, he was not able to make his flight. Gareth, we see you in chat as well. Hopefully you'll enjoy yourself nearly as much by watching. We wish you were here. We really, really do. Lewis Atkinson will hold on to 3 championship points heading into this live finals. Then it'll be Ben McDonald. We've got Scotty Ray, Scott Greenless, that is. Andre Skeppers, and then Ben Groves, Olaf Flash, and Angus Allen. Now, Angus has actually moved up from the lower division as well, so it's an impressive drive there, as has Ben Groves. So a few drivers through the online season proving they have the capabilities of competing for that drive. And the sponsor we didn't mention, of course, was Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. They are providing the grand prize today.
Oh, bugger, I feel a bit bad about that now. But, yeah, like you say, some of those lower ranked drivers are the real beneficiaries of this format that we've been running this season, of course, with the floating divisions. If you were the top of Division 2, you could have found yourself in the bottom of Division 1. And conversely, if you were in the bottom of Division 1, you might well have found yourself dropping down to Div 2. It was a really dynamic sort of way of doing things. We've never done it before here at the NZERS, and I definitely think we'll have to do it again next season. It just worked, and like you said, now what you've got is the top drivers in the country, isn't that right? So certainly, and we've got some pretty exciting combos too. We were actually talking about this just before the stream, weren't we? We've got 3 distinctively different combos, different cars, different tracks, different set of conditions, just to really sort of throw a bit of tactical, decision making into the mix. And I think it's going to translate into some phenomenal racing. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. We're going to take you all through the information. There's a general event schedule. We're going to have our qualifying happening soon. That's going to set the grid for the sprint race that happens next, and then we'll be doing a rolling start in our feature race, which is going to feature all the racing tyres and a very special car as well. But first of all, let's talk about qualifying. Let's give you a bit of information on that right now. And we return to our very, very familiar car. This is the Toyota 86 Group 4. This was used all the way through the online season for every single race. So this is a car that everyone is familiar with. And we'll talk about the track in a few moments' time. But this car has been a staple of consistency. You need to be really consistent with the way you place the car. It's a reasonably heavy car, but it's got a good amount of power behind it.
It's provided us with some truly phenomenal racing. We've enjoyed seeing it in action. And, again, it's got its ups, it's got its downs. It's not perhaps the quickest of the Group 4 class, but when you put it into its own little event like this, it just shines. It's well balanced. It's cheap. It's very entry level. But again, how many titanic battles have we seen over the course of this championship in this little 86?
Yeah, it has been a staple point. And today, for qualifying, this is going to be the car that the drivers are going to be using. Where are they going, you might ask? For qualifying, it's the Tsukuba circuit over in Japan. 2 kilometers and 9 turns. It's tight, it's twisty. There's not a lot of straights. And by the way, it just happens to be raining.
For added fun in racing, just add water. But yeah, absolutely. It's Tsukuba Circuit's pretty iconic. Chances are, if you were playing racing video games in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, there may well have been Tsukuba Circuit in there. Forza, Gran Turismo, Auto Modelista comes to mind as well. Very, very iconic. Very easy to learn, very difficult to master, isn't it? And of course, this, I forget what this layout's called, but this is the full layout. There is a shorter one that sort of shortcuts at turn 6 and gets back onto that final straight. But nope, this is the iconic one. This is the one that everyone sort of, if you say Tsukuba, this is what you'll see.
Exactly right. So this is a very tricky circuit to get very right because there's a lot of small, tight turns. The track does get very, very narrow as well. So this is not going to be the easiest of places to go qualifying. Then you add in the fact that it's raining as well. I believe it's going to be R05 for those familiar with the in-game rain settings. It's not the heaviest, but it's by no means the lightest either. As you can see on the information on the right-hand side, a tight, twisty circuit used for grassroots motorsport featuring grip and drift, used for the best motoring vehicle testing series. And the wet weather, of course, will test our competitors' throttle control. It's going to be a really tricky one. And we need to mention as well the rigs and the setup, because that's another massive aspect of the grand finals. Everyone is sitting in a real sim racing rig. They all have wheel and pedals, and they've all gone through a selection process to who chooses which rig, which has been very, very interesting. And we have to thank for those in the background who have actually provided us with some rigs, because the community community has genuinely come together on this one. We were short a few rigs, and boy oh boy, everyone, the people from Wellington, from all over, with a number of people actually taking vans to go and pick up rigs and other stuff like that. They have actually brought their own rigs in for us to use here today, which is incredible.
Yeah, and that's always one of the things about these sorts of live events. You know, when you do online qualifiers, you're in your own home, you're in your own rig, and of course, some people will have different wheels and different settings and different seating positions, but when you come to these live events, it's all different. It's not a rig, it's not a equipment that you're used to, and of course these guys have been practicing for the most part of the day, so they've been trying to get as familiar as they can. Like you say, there was a selection process on who got to pick what rig and where, and some guys couldn't really care less, and some guys were super calculated, and I think the brake pedal's better on this one, so I'm going to drive that one, and all that sort of thing. It's interesting to see the sort of different thought processes behind it, because you got some people who don't, they could win on anything, and then you have others that they have to have that particular button layout, otherwise they may as well go home.
Exactly right, yeah, and there's been a lot of people who've come down either today, early in the morning, or late last night, so people arriving at all sorts of hours of the day, which has been really, really tricky for the drivers to get used to a rig, a wheel, and a pedal setup that is in some ways very, very unfamiliar for them. So let's talk a little bit more about the drivers. We're going to get into qualifying in a few moments' time, but we've got a few driver profiles to get through very quickly. First of all, let's talk about the Palmerston North man and Matthew McEwen. He is a walking meme sometimes, and then other times he is a champion esports racer. He's been to the GT World Series many, many, many times now, and he is basically the shoe-in at the moment for the win. But it's always, when it comes down to the actual race, things always become a lot different.
Yeah, he's definitely the favourite to take this one, and the two drivers that were set to really give him a run for his money, Cy Bishop and Caleb Birtles, unfortunately not able to make it, so that's kind of really opened things up for him. Not to say that he's going to have it all his way. We have seen in the past that sometimes things don't quite go how he envisioned it, but again, as far as favourites, he's definitely one of the ones, and for good reason. He is a World Series driver. He's basically New Zealand's top driver as far as driver ranking and World Series appearances. He spun out doing his Grand Prize race day last year. If he wins this prize, I think he'll try to avoid that a second time. But yeah, look, Matthew McEwen, absolute class act. Like you say, he's got a sense of humour. He's a bit of a meme as well. But definitely one to watch.
For sure. And then Ben Groves, he's the youngster. He's been an up-and-comer. Evolved from the Division 2 entry, won nearly all his races in Division 2, and then ended up, of course, being upgraded into our Division 1 class and got just enough points. In fact, it was very, very close at the bottom of the table, but he got enough points. He earned himself a live finals drive, and he is here today with his father, and they are just the loveliest people, of course, as well. Lovely picture there as well. So Sly Ben the Cat with Liam Lawson. Great picture, of course. Liam Lawson. Enough said.
Yeah, he was one of the big benefactors of the whole floating divisions format, wasn't he? And like you say, he was just so dominant in those Div 2 races. He got put up at the big boys, and again, he had his ups and downs, but ultimately he was he did enough to end up here, didn't he? So now it's going to be really cool to see, and he's one of the young guns too. He's very, very early in his sim racing career, and with his dad sort of in tow to support him along the way. That's awesome. That's the family dynamic you want to see.
Certainly is. Then Ben McDonald, Palmerston North, 404 liveries not found. We did try and get some livery photos there, but of course NZ Crimson came 6th in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series, so a face that we have seen here before at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. And he's also not just a single game kind of person. World Esports Games 2018 in StarCraft. That is massive because that is a super, super competitive place to be. So he certainly is aware of how competitive the gaming industry and scene is.
Yeah, he was one of the real not quite hard luck stories last year, but like you say, he came 6th. He was very almost in the top 5, but he just couldn't quite put it together when it counted. So he'll be hungry to do better this year. And again, we were talking to him previously, earlier this morning, and he's really put in the hours. Of course, these guys have known about these combos for a few days, so they've had some time to log a few laps, do a bit of testing, and of course with the wet weather too, that obviously chucks in a bit of a variable. He's definitely hungry to do better for 2024.
Then it is Lewis Atkinson. He's a Hoon Corp Esports driver, as you might be able to tell. We do have Nathan Howe here, who is the team owner of Hoon Corp Esports. So I'm going to not let him speak at all because there's going to be bias. Nonetheless, the runner-up, of course, of 2023's NZ Esports Racing Series. He is a name that is so familiar to so many of us in the GT7 community, whether he is there doing some good strategy calls or maybe some questionable ones. Nonetheless, he is a very, very quick guy. He's super fun to be around.
Yeah, he was the runner-up last year, second only to Matt McEwen, and he was pretty dominant runner-up. He was second in quali, second in the sprint, second in the feature. I think this year he's probably going to want to go for a couple of firsts, isn't he, George?
I think so. Reese Davidson, come down from Auckland, of course. Big Head Ted is his handle, and he finished 7th in last year's NZ Esports Racing Series finals. He's the undisputed Limbo champion, and boy, oh boy, this man can drift. He can go sideways, and he knows what he's doing. We saw him on the rally circuit earlier on, and he was just setting, unbelievable times. So this is a man who knows driving. This is a man who has a really good feel for the wheel and pedals.
Yeah, there's a bit of expectation there for him to do well in this qualifying format, especially with the heavy rain too. It's not just a little bit of, the track's a bit damp, like it's outright raining. And he's definitely got the throttle control and the reactions to be able to gather it up if indeed it does get a bit out of shape, which of course, other interesting thing about the way these races are run, no traction control, George. So, these guys are going to really have to be a bit delicate on their throttle application. And, Reese is... He's done a bit of that sort of thing. Man of many talents. So, yeah, I definitely would put him as one of the favourites to do well in this quali session.
And of course, it is Olaf Fresh, a personal friend now of Nathan Howe. He'll talk more about him or say some embarrassing things, I'm sure. Finished 3rd in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series Split 2. So finding himself up in Div 1, he's improved. He's got himself some really, really good technical skills out there on the track, and he's done incredibly well. So great to see him making a reappearance here at the Esports Series, and especially to make it to the live finals. That is an impressive run up the ladder.
Yeah, old Olaf, seen there trying out Bonnet Cam in real life. Finished 3rd in the Split 2 last year. So, again, last year we didn't do floating divisions, so because he was Split 2, that meant he wasn't able to compete. This year, here he is. He's actually made the cut, and again, he's a bit of a silent achiever. I think you'll find he's not very, not overly stated, but he does definitely have the pace to be here, and it's well deserved. He's definitely going to do particularly well, I do reckon.
Exactly right. So as we barrel towards qualifying now, we have 3 other drivers to mention. We don't actually have driver profiles for them. Unfortunately, we were just not able to get them done quite in time, but we're going to talk about them nonetheless. Scotty Ray is the first one that we're going to talk about. He's a young man. He's got his dad in tow as well, so he's not the only one. We've got Ben Groves and his dad, and we've got Scotty Ray and his dad, so that's the Greenlist family. And he is a fantastic chap as well. I saw some of his laps earlier on in the wet. He is quick.
Yep. And again, rain is just such a completely different animal when it comes to racing. He hails from the Manawatu, and his performances this season have been super consistent. He bagged that last critical point for the online season, so he's going in with a little bit more of an advantage over some of his peers. And again, he's going to really want to put that point to good use.
Exactly right. Then, of course, it is Andre Skeppers, and I will, of course, pronounce that incorrectly. He's a South African native, I believe. We'll have to double-check that one. Nonetheless, he is coming from Canterbury, and he is a fantastic young man. He is one of those that manages to make it up from that Division 2 cutoff all the way through into the live finals, which is super, super impressive. Had a few interesting runs, but his early races in Div 2 were very successful. Bagged himself a podium position in round 1, which was excellent, and got a 5th place once he got up into Division 1. Very, very impressive. I think that was a Division 1 finish. I'll double check that, but I'm 99% sure it is. Nonetheless, Andre Skeppers, hopefully it'll go lekker for him.
Well, other people's pain is his benefit, and again, with a few drivers missing, he did get the call up. How good, though? I mean, I'm sure he's not complaining, and, we know he's quick. He's definitely proven himself with a couple of Div 1 cameos, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll be able to do here in Wellington in the live finals.
Exactly. Then finally, Angus Allen. We're about to go into qualifying. Angus Allen, he is claimed now to be the oldest competitor here today in the live finals. Probably doesn't want me to tell them his exact age, which we don't actually know, but he's given us an indication. Nonetheless, Angus Allen, such a nice dude. Also, another surprise jump up into the live finals as a result of a couple of drivers not being able to make it here today. He is going to be in the box seat for this one. He's going to have an absolute spectacle. Wherever he ends up starting from, there's going to be action all around him.
Mate, he doesn't look a day over 25, I'll tell you that, though. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely one of the characters. And, yeah, see, again, we've just got such a good spread of genuine good buggers in this competition. No one's high and mighty. No one's, I'm better than you. Yeah, these guys are a lot of these guys are mates. They all get along well. And, yeah, how good. This is just such an awesome little competition. And, yeah, I think we're nearly ready to...
We apologise yet again for the technical interruption. These things are unfortunately plaguing us here in the broadcast studio today. We're going to jump straight into qualifying, so let's go there right now.
Awesome. Well, you're looking at a very, very wet Tsukuba circuit. These guys are going out at, I believe it's 30 or 40-second intervals. This is a shootout format. Now, we didn't really touch on the exact format we're going for qualifying here. It's a shootout format, so they only get one lap to make or break, do or die, but they do get a staggered start. So they should be pretty away from each other. No one should really interrupt each other's laps. Angus GTR is leading us out as the lowest, I suppose, the last place in the current standings. So this is his do or die lap. If he bins this one, he's got to park it up and just do with what he does. But we also do have Clan and Slyben out there at the same time, so it's going to be a bit hard to sort of follow their laps individually like you would with a normal shootout. But, we'll do our best, George. We'll do our best, won't we?
We certainly will. And one of the great things about having a live event is the fact that we are able to bring up the live cameras. There is Angus Allen on our screens right now as we follow along with his qualifying lap. The timer is ever so slightly wrong at the moment. We do have 10-minute qualifying. We're a couple of minutes offset with that, to look at the bottom left of your screen for the actual timer. But Angus Allen is now out on his lap, and boy, oh boy, I mean, the car's body language right now, it looks very sketchy. It's a little bit of a wide line through that last hairpin. Tricky braking zone to that. Luckily, it is on camber. Does mean you can get the power down reasonably well, but the TC0 is designed to challenge these drivers to the limit.
Yeah, absolutely, and they are on sport tyres, so they do have something in the way of rain. They're not wet weather tyres, but they can handle a bit of water. It's not like slicks where you absolutely struggle to make any ground whatsoever. He's going to come across the line really soon. Let's see what his time is, a 17.2. So that's your first lap to sort of open this account, which sounds about right. In perfect conditions at Tsukuba, you're looking at about probably a minute 5, a minute 10, depending on the car. This is, of course, the road-going Toyota 86. It's not the Group 4, as we previously mentioned, so different performance there. Clan Fever, what's that, a 1:15.5? So again, a lot of these guys, it's one lap do or die. They don't get time to sort of warm up, get a groove, and the track to get a nice dry line. But yeah, certainly it's interesting to see how they do in that one lap pressure moment. So you can see Slyben the Cat, 1:19.7. So he's going to sit there at the back for the time being. We've got a few other drivers out there on track now. Stone Harbour, Scotty and Crimson are all out there about to get their laps underway.
That's right, a little bit of a slide there for Slyben the Cat. So unfortunately that'll be his lap over for the most part, just for the moment. Lots going on in the background as well. As you can see, the cameras all up on screen, so it's a tricky, pressured environment for all the drivers. Here's Stone Harbour, so it's Andre Scheppers. He is now out for his lap. We'll see if he's able to get a decent time in. Clan Fever is leading us away with a 1:15.565. That is a very decent time in these conditions. So Clan Fever, it's really setting the bar high. Oh, that's very deep into the third, fourth corner there for Stone Harbour, and you can see the rear end just doesn't want to apply the power. Group 4 car's got a lot of power. TC0, you are not going to get a lot of that down on track, unfortunately.
Yeah, and especially, Gran Turismo 7 does such a good job showing where the water is on the track. It's not just a wet surface across the board. There's high bits, there's low bits, the water will flow and it'll puddle down there and it'll be a bit drier up there. So this is where wet lines come into play, because of course when you're on a wet track, you actually want to drive offline. You want to try and find the spots that aren't rubbered and slick, because when those bits get wet, there is even less grip than if you were offline. So, Stone Harbour made a bit of a mistake there, but he is still purple sector at the moment. He's 8/10 up, so it might not have necessarily been a bad thing, George. It'll be interesting to see how much he can put together this lap as he's coming across the final line. Gets it a bit loose on the rubber there, but he's still enough to go pole. 14.3, George. I mean, that is a tremendous effort. And look at him. He's proud of himself. He looked super accomplished there. Scotty Shots up next. He's going to come across and again up purple. Only just though. 0.89 of a second. What's he going to do? What's he got to answer? Stone Harbour a 14.3. He's going to come along. Scotty is going to do a 14.1. So that's good enough. That is currently top of the tables. But again, we're running a reverse order now. So the higher ranked guys are making their way around too. We've got Crimson, Lewis and Ted currently out there at the moment too. And I mean, dude, how all of them going on this super wide bit there too, which is a bit slick and slippery. 16.2 there for Crimson. Looking very nice in the bright shiny green. You won't miss that one in a wet weather scenario. Who's next? Is that Lewis? Yep, so HC Lewis coming around. We missed that final sector, so I don't know if he's up or down or in or out or what he's doing. Oh, no, that's his outlap. Never mind. All right. So we got a little bit to talk about this format. This is very, like I said, it's do or die, isn't it? You either have the stuff or you don't. So, I don't know. But how are you in the wet, George?
I'm okay for the most part in the wet weather driving. It's not too bad. I do like this circuit. I do like the wet weather. These cars, though, with TC0 in the wet, I don't think that's my cup of tea necessarily. You can see how much struggle there is through that hairpin. It's so tricky to get the power down in these cars. That's a purple first sector for Lewis, who is deciding to do a little bit of sideways drifting here, which is actually the way that you need to maneuver these cars. Not like that, though. This is a little bit stylish, I think, to be necessarily fast, but we shall see. Sometimes in the wet conditions you can find that the car maneuvering like that will actually be reasonably quick. It's all about how you can manage the steering input. If that car's rear end is wiggling, you need to be wiggling that steering wheel to get it back in line so that you can keep all four tyres on the road to maximise that grip.
Certainly right, and you saw him clip the grass just on the end of on the exit of that hairpin there too. I don't actually know many of the corner names at Tsukuba. I don't even know if they have corner names necessarily. They're kind of just designated numbers. But either which way, he goes very deep on the last corner. Good for third place, 14.9. So he'll probably be a bit gutted with that one. He knows some of those sideways antics have probably cost him a bit of pace. Speaking of sideways antics, we have Mr. Drifter himself, Reese Davidson here. He's 8/10 up purple sector, and I mean, look at him there, just masterful wheel work. He's very comfortable in these low grip conditions, and sure enough, a 13.1. So we're really getting into those pointy end of the laps, aren't we? And yeah, he knows it. He's happy. Bit of showmanship to sort of conclude his lap.
Absolutely, and then of course it is Matt McEwen. He is our 2023 championship winner. And he is going to be setting his lap now, and it is another 0.8 of a second faster than Big Head Ted. And look at that, Matt. He is cool, calm, and collected. And that was a fantastic lap by Matt McEwen, showing us the car control that he has in these Group 4 cars. I'm sure we'll be seeing even more of that later on. That looks to be our qualifying more or less done. That is the order that we're going to be going into our sprint race for. Interesting way to begin things with the wet situation here at Tsukuba. Some really, really good laps out there. I think obviously notably Scotty Ray up into P3, Andre Skeppers P4. Lewis finds himself in P5, and then Big Ed Ted up into second. He was talking to me earlier about how he felt he didn't deserve the second place in the championship standings that he's at. I think this says otherwise.
Mate, part of the thing of being a professional driver is you have to be competent in any and all conditions. It's not just a case of on a sunny day, balmy and mild, nice good track temp, and on your soft racing tyres. No, you have to be able to do whatever. They give you the tyres, they say, here's your slicks, it's peeing down with rain, go get us a world championship. And, you know, he's done it. He's second in the standings, so he's definitely deserved. He can't be so harsh on himself. And I mean, even look at him there with Matthew McEwen. You know, they're swapping jabs and camaraderie. It's just awesome to see. I mean, like I said, most of these guys get along really well. If not, they're good mates. And yeah, such an awesome format. Tsukuba Circuit never ceases to disappoint, especially when you have a rear-wheel drive car with no traction control.
Exactly, yeah, and this is the nice thing about it. It mixes up the grid, gets things all prepared for what should be a very, very good start to our sprint race coming up. We'll have more details on that in a few moments' time because it's a different car. It's a different circuit. There's different rules. There's strategy involved. We have to go through all of that information, and we'll have our interviews for our top 3 in qualifying in a few moments' time. It's going to be Matt McEwen, it's going to be Reese Davison, and it's going to be Scotty Ray. So this is looking like a good scenario. We will get the chaps over in a few moments' time. We're also hoping to get some results up on your screens too in a few moments' time, but it sounds like we may be going straight to our interviews first. So our first interviewee, of course, is going to be P3 Scotty Ray. He'll be jumping into the interview box, getting his microphone turned on, and then we will be having a chat to him. Let's go to the interview now. And we've had yet another technical issue. We do massively apologize for this. We will be providing an uninterrupted final edit of all the parts of this video at the end of the broadcast, so do not worry, you will be able to rewatch back without these technical hiccups. For now, we want to talk to our third place. It is Scotty. Scotty, mate, now that we can actually see you, you're on this side of the commentary box. Welcome to the broadcasting booth. Fantastic to have you in here. We were talking to you about your feeling through the wet racing there. It's not easy, TC0, but third place. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just surprised to be here, to be honest. Didn't realise that many people would mess up in the lap, because mine was pretty average. Coming onto the start of the lap at the last big sweeper, I was 2 wheels into the dirt just to start the lap. So I thought it would be a pretty bad result coming from that, but it turned out alright from there.
Now, it was a wet weather conditions, which obviously, I mean, like you say, it sort of caught out a few of those ones that you think would have done a bit better in a one-lap situation. So how did that sort of feel for you comparatively? Was it something you were pretty comfortable with, or was it a bit of, uncommon?
I do a lot of wet weather racing at home, so I'm kind of familiar with it, but not really on the street tyres that we had on there. So it's quite a change in grip compared to the wets and intermediates that we usually use in race cars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was reasonably comfortable with it. Kept it on the black bit, but yeah, I'm happy with it.
Fantastic.
And unlike the rest of the season, where we've been using the same car, we've got 2 completely different cars, 2 completely, they couldn't be more further apart, could they, George? So are you sort of, have you done enough practice with all 3 of them?
I'm just happy to have some variety, to be honest. Having the whole season in Group 486 gets a little bit boring after a while. But it's good to have the Group 3 Supras and the Super Formula cars out. But yeah, I'm happy.
Brilliant. Massive congratulations on P3, but it's only the start. It's only qualifying. You've got 2 races ahead of you, so good luck. Go and get yourself ready for those.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Brilliant. Cheers. Right, up next, it will be our P2 finisher, which I will have to pull up my results screen because we had
the
that
one,
technical
the
issue.
only, the Reese Davidson, Big Head Ted.
There we go. So once Reese Davison is in the chair, he will be handed the microphone. There it is. Reese, congratulations, P2. We saw some sideways action there. Now, was that intentional, or was it as a result of the wet weather?
It's just skill. I don't know what to tell you, mate. I flicked it in sideways, caught it perfect, drove out of it, did a decent lap. Lovely. No, to be serious, I braked a little late into T1 and trail braked a little funky because not used to this brake set. So went a bit deep, went a bit sideways, caught it, drove a mediocre rest of the lap. I had a bit of pace because a bit of a wet weather specialist over here. I love the street cars, I love my drifting, so I know how to, the second something's on the edge of grip, I know exactly where it is and how to keep it there. So that's
we saw 2 distinct hand movements on your camera. One was this very, very finessed control of the wheel. One hand wasn't really on. You were just sort of feeling where that wheel was.
Yeah, that's how I drift a lot of the time. I will kind of use that as a stabilizer, and then if I need to make that big movement, I chuck the other hand on and flick it. So that's kind of, because most of the time drifting, sliding around like that, you don't even need a hand on the wheel. It can just naturally flow through the corner. That's just to guide it. And so this one just kind of hovers. I don't know where that's come from. That's obviously all my drifting. I've got so much experience in drifting, way more than racing, so yeah.
The other hand signal, and then we'll get to Nathan's questions. The other hand signal I saw was this at the end. This was average or?
Very average lap. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I obviously almost went off T1, and then I just drove kind of meh the rest of the lap. I just kind of drove it, yeah. But to be fair, when I was coming out on track, I knew I'd be P2, P3 because, well, no one else did a good lap. Everyone else seemed to do a terrible lap from what I thought. I thought everyone would find a bit more pace. Like someone like Sly Ben absolutely bent his lap. I saw his time. I thought he would have found quite a bit of pace. Crimson seemed to have a bit too in practice, but no one was able to really put it together. I guess the pressure got to them in that situation.
brutal assessment there from our second place, Reese Davison. No, well, I think you pretty much covered all the bases, mate. So we'll be seeing you very shortly in the Group 3 Supra.
Back because I suck at GT3 cars. Oh my god.
Well, you heard it here first. Reese Davison is a one-hit wonder. No, all good, mate.
The less grip, the better, as I say. So it has too much grip for me.
Well, we'll see how he does very, very shortly. Of
Certainly
course,
will.
We're not that far away from getting back underway in the Group 3 Supra, which Reese, on his own admission, says it's not his favourite. So, we'll see how he goes. We'll see how he does. Maybe talk to you a bit later then, Reese. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Thank you very much, Reese Davison. Congratulations on P2, and we will see you hopefully shortly, but good luck in the next race. Okay, and now, of course, P1. All right, so we get to talk once again to Matthew McKeown. But we've got some other things to mention as well. Obviously, apologies for the technical interruptions to the stream. It's a very complicated thing to get set up and run. And, of course, sometimes these things do happen. I think Matthew's on his way. He may be in here relatively soon. Oh, hi, Matt. Oh, there he is. Welcome into the commentary booth. And congratulations on P1. Looked like a really good lap. 8/10 the gap out front.
Thanks. I've never done a lap that fast, actually. In practice, I was doing about 12.6s, and so that was just quite surprising for me.
That's a fast lap, and obviously there's a bit of a benchmark. Wet weather racing TC0.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's pretty difficult, one little mistake and you'll just go skidding. In the moment you're sliding, it's gone. There's not really much point trying to gather it up because you're going into the wall anyway. So you just got to drive within the limits and... yeah, or you can just throw caution to the wind. It's up to you, really. But I decided to play it a little bit safe, just try to drive not like a maniac or anything. Had to catch it at one point in T3, because it just went kind of a little bit right, but besides that, it was nice and stable.
Yeah, is there much in the ways of aquaplaning? Because Tsukuba Circuit's one of those ones where you definitely get some puddles in the lower bits, and obviously the higher bits it drains off a bit. But with those sport tyres, there is a bit of rain dispersion, I suppose, but it's not a wet weather tyre at the end of the day, is it?
No, it's not really a wet weather tyre. I don't think it's quite wet enough to aquaplane, but the water's definitely there. It's definitely a wet race, not just a damp track or anything like that. It's definitely quite wet, but it's not quite enough water just to send you absolutely flying from driving straight.
Yeah.
So, it'll only do that if you're turning and you got way too much throttle on, or if you do something silly.
No, all good. Well, we've got two completely different cars and combos. Reese was just in here saying that Group 3 Supra is not his favourite. You were using the Group 3 Supra last weekend in the Mega Esports event, so you reckon you got a bit more familiarity with that particular car?
Oh, it's still not my favourite. I hate that thing. I drove it last week and I hated every second of it, so I wouldn't call it an advantage, let's say.
It's a tricky one because we're going to Catalonia, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to Catalonia. Toyota Supra, going to be good. Top speed, equal machinery though for everyone, so that advantage is kind of negated. Understeer in the corners, the infield, going to be a little bit tricky. Any corners you're worried about?
Yeah, there's a couple of weird ones. The final corner and the one just before that, really easy to run wide, get a penalty, and it's just so frustrating. And the big sweeper T3, it just burns your tyres, so it's just frustrating to drive through those ones.
Too right.
Try to manage the tyres.
Absolutely right. Well, Matthew McKeown, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box, literally the commentary box. Good luck for the upcoming races, and we may see you back in here later on today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very frank assessment there from the reigning champion, and like you say, Catalonia. It's a bit of an interesting course. It's not really too liked by the Gran Turismo community, but it kind of got a second lease of life when they released the no chicane layout. They took out one corner, and all of a sudden, it's a much better place to race.
Of course. Well, that's the thing. There's certainly opinions. Let's put it that way. You might be getting a few comments in chat as a result of that one. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, obviously in the Formula One, they removed the chicane. They didn't want any part of it. I think they do still use that a lot in the GT World Challenge. Nonetheless, whether you like it or hate it, there is no chicane today. We're going to talk about that very, very soon. In fact, you know what? Let's talk about it right now. It's time to move on towards our sprint race, which is getting set up in the background right now. So let's talk about the car, because we've talked about this a little bit. It is the Toyota Group 3 Supra. It's the Racing Concept 2018. This thing's got nearly 600 brake horsepower. It's very quick. It's very powerful. Great in a straight line, but as we heard from our reigning champion, not great on some of the turning.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's not a real GT3 car. Of course, you say it's a concept car that they created. I think it even predates the actual production Toyota Supra. just to sort of see what it would look like as a race car. Of course, manufacturers like to do that sort of thing to generate a bit of hype, and what better model to make a bit of hype about than the Toyota Supra of all marquees. And yeah, I mean, look at it. It's wide, it's low, it's got those massive arches to contain the huge racing slicks, plenty of aero, and as you alluded to talking to Matt, it's got straight line speed. That is definitely one of its strengths, and yeah, there's certainly it's got its fans. It's one of the more popular choices for Group 3 racing. If you have open choice, chances are you will see plenty of Group 3 Supras in amongst the mix. It's effectively completely replaced its predecessor. Of course, prior to its inclusion in the franchise, there was the FT1 VGT Group 3 car. That is largely a memory now because nobody uses it. They favour the Supra.
That's exactly it. So let's talk track, because it is now time to go to the No Chicane Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya. It's a lovely, lovely bit of track this. I absolutely love this place. However, I've had my own little bits of PTSD at the circuit as well. Turn 1, of course, heavy braking zone, popular overtaking point because you're coming off that long pit straight, so you get that on the inside. But bear in mind, it is a bit of an S. So you've got turn 2 to take into account. You get up the inside line, suddenly becomes the outside line. So it's also easy to defend into that location as well. So a lot of thinking and defensive driving going to have to be done by the drivers into turn 1. Turn 3, of course, the high load right-hander. It'll wear out the left front tyres quite a lot. It'll do a little bit of damage to those rears too, but yeah, you're leaning heavily on the car as you head through turn 3, then into this lovely infield section. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to the back straight from turn 9, which is a high-speed, sharp hairpin. Can overtake through here. Be very careful when you do that. You might have a better chance down into turn 10, which is the tightest corner on this track, Nathan.
Yeah, turn 10 is certainly an interesting one. It's more than 90 degrees. In fact, it's more like 180 degrees. Obviously, it's not, but it is certainly the real spot to Hail Mary a move if you're going to. And then, like you say, turn 1, very, very fast approach. It's even faster in this layout because we've chopped out that chicane. So your arrival speed is going to be very near terminal velocity for the Supra. And yeah, there's just so many long, continuous corners. I mean, turns 12, 13, 14, that is going to be such a tyre killer. And mandatory stop for this race too, George.
Exactly right. So let's talk strategy, because you're absolutely right. Tyres 2 times. For those of you not in the know, this means that for every lap you do, your tyres experience 2 laps worth of wear. That's how this works. Fuel consumption, though, at 1x, so that'll be consumed at the regular rate. We're expecting the racing softs to last plus or minus a bit, around 6 laps, and then, of course, the racing hard tyres. Both of these tyres are required to be used on this Group 3, so there's going to be a little bit of strategy. Which tyre do you start on? Where are you starting in terms of your qualifying results? What kind of strategy are you aiming to do? How long can you take those tyres? How much can you look after them? So key things to look out for here is going to be the tyre life and how well you are looking after those tyres.
And of course, there's such a difference too. It's not like having a soft and a medium or a medium and a hard. We've got soft and hard. So there's such a difference in their performance and in their grip. So someone who's on the soft tyre will almost be able to make mincemeat of someone on a hard tyre, but the upshot is that the hard tyre is going to last longer, isn't it? So yeah, it's definitely, and I'm amazed that you were brave enough to put a prediction on the tyre life, because every single time we've done that in the online season, they've managed to
We've never been right.
We've never been right. We've never even been close to accurate.
Our strategists who design the races have never been right on this either. We even tried to do a plus minus 2, 3, 4 laps. No, we were completely wrong. So this could be 8, 9 laps on the softs. It could be less.
Could be. It could. And again, some of these guys are just absolute tyre masters. They know how to get performance out of their tyre. They also know how to get durability out of their tyre. Like you say, sometimes they'll go for 4 or 5 laps more than we could have ever predicted. Yeah, and especially around a place like Barcelona where you've got fast straights, you've got tight corners, you've got flowing corners. There really is something for everything. I think there's a reason that this place is used for Formula 1 testing.
Yeah, exactly right. So we are going to go to our race in a few moments' time. I'm really looking forward to this. This is critical, and the finishing order for this one will determine where you line up for that feature race, as I understand it. So we shall see exactly what these drivers are capable of. It's no longer solo qualifying. Now they've got a race amongst themselves as well, and that is going to be a massive key factor here today. I'm looking forward to this very much. So, of course, Matt McEwen will be lining up on that pole position, And of course, he'll have a big head Ted, Rhys Davidson, who was very excited to be in the commentary booth, I have to admit. He was definitely playing to our crowd here today.
Yeah, he's certainly a character, old Reese, but yeah, no, that's why we love him. And again, I think we're only seconds away from seeing these guys get to the business end of the New Zealand Esports Racing Series, brought to you by Toyota Gazoo Racing.
Okay, we are about to get underway here for the sprint race, and the lights are about to go out, so keep a very close eye on those 5 red lights at the top of your screen. We hear them now. Matt McEwen will lead us away. False starts, of course, will be penalised, so don't get off the brake too early. The lights are out, and we are racing in the Group 3 Supras. That's a bad start for someone at the rear end of the grid, but Matt McEwen has gotten away very nicely at the beginning of this race. They're all tucked into the slipstream, trying to defend that inside line, because there's an easy overtake. It's the easiest time to overtake at turn 1, and Big Ed Ted is actually going to try around the outside line. He's run very deep, but he's actually got the move done. Rhys Davidson moves up into pole position, P1 in this race right now, ahead of our reigning champion Matt McEwen. Then it is Scotty Ray in P3, still holding on to the position. And then, of course, Lewis Atkinson, he's actually made up 1 position already, because Stone Harbour has fallen back to P5. Then it's Sly Ben the Cat fighting in amongst Clan Fever and Crimson. It's a real battlefield here at the bottom of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Angus Allen who had that shocker of a start, so he's already on the back foot and won't be too happy about that. Ted, what a move. I don't think McEwen was even expecting it. He kind of just got sent immediately. But yeah, and he did it clean, did it well. I don't think the stewards are going to have any case to answer for there. But I mean, again, look at all these guys arguing for the early gains, early moves, early shakes. And again, 13 laps to go. They do have to make that pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see if some of these guys perhaps started on the softs and they're banking on getting that pit stop out of the way early in the piece. Or conversely, are they going to duke it out on the hards, get that duration done, and then swap out, finish on the softs.
And it is Matt McEwen back up into the lead. It was a move at turn 9, I believe. It was a nice move to return that favour to Big Head Ted, who has now fallen back to P2 under a lot of pressure and running onto the gravel. He is familiar with that area of the track, but he does not want to be dirtying up the tyres in this situation, so Big Head Ted falls back to P2. Now the question is going to be, can he hold off? Oh, Scotty Ray, he's gone for a bit of a slide, he's run wide, and that is a penalty. 0.5 of a second for Big Head Ted. Not how you want to be beginning this race. What a start from him. It's not got his way in the remainder of the lap.
Absolute hero to 0. Well, that's a bit harsh. Not quite 0, but I mean, you see it there on the camera. He's not happy. Really gutted with himself. And again, to be punished after he's already gotten it wrong, that's a bit harsh. But unfortunately, that's the way the game is coded. We're on board now with Scotty Ray, who's absolutely, he's the beneficiary out of that. He will be thanking Ted after the race for gifting him P2 on a silver platter. In the meanwhile, it's McEwen with 1.3 seconds, so he's got a bit of breathing room. I don't think he's going to get slipstreamed down any of these straights, so he can just focus on punching out the laps and doing what needs to be done. In the meantime, we got Sly Ben the Cat, who's really standing to gain some spots. If he's behind Ted and Lewis is putting the pressure, or trying to put the pressure on Ted, who he will know is already mentally shaken after that disastrous conclusion to his first lap. And I mean, dude, look at how close these guys all are. There's like a 10th in it, and then another 10th in it, and what do you expect from the top in the country, don't you?
Exactly, and bear in mind, of course, that different strategies are being executed as we speak. So there may be some on the hards, maybe some on the softs, and that is a move immediately. So look at this. This is really unlucky. Rhys Davidson getting overtaken immediately by 2 cars. A little bit of contact there as they headed towards the next turn, number 10 there. So Lewis and Sly Ben the Cat, that's Ben Groves, up now into the top positions. They're actually really in this, potentially on for a P2 in this race. Lewis in P3 just gets himself ahead of Ben Groves, and Ben Groves will continue now the slipstream as they head through this last quarter into the no chicane area. And that is someone in the wall. That is a massive wall collision, in fact. Who was that? It looks like it been Lewis Atkinson. In fact, it is Lewis Atkinson. He was right into the wall. Lewis Atkinson into the wall on the pits, and he has really, really made a mess of that one.
Yeah, that is a massive shame. He is absolutely gutted. You can see he's laughing about it. He's so upset. His sadness has turned to joy. But no, look, at least he was on the hard tyre, so he's going to chuck it in. He's going to put the soft tyres on, and that's a lot of mileage to do on the racing soft tyre, which... I mean, hey, look, he might salvage something yet from this, and again, this is to set the order for the feature race, so it's not out, down and out, but it certainly makes things harder from here on out, doesn't it?
Certainly does, yeah. GD Crimson, he's also jumped into the pit lane. He's on the soft tyre at the beginning, so I do wonder if there's maybe a little bit of an issue there for him too. We're on board with Stone Harbour. It's Andre Skeppers, and he is currently in P5. A little bit of a snap there as they head through turn 5, now into this lovely infield section. Sector 2 on its way through this part of the track. Angus GTR up at the P6, so he is actually in a great position at the moment in this race, and Angus Allen is in that number 10. Very, very bright. You see it from a mile away in the commentary box, which is brilliant. And look at the stone cold focus on this man's face right now. He knows that there is a P5 positioned Andre Skeppers just ahead of him.
Yeah, he was talking to me before we went live, before the broadcast, and he did mention that he wasn't the most confident in this race, but he just wanted to be within range, because if other people have issues, he would stand to gain. And of course, what's just happened now with Lewis made an issue, and Angus has basically gained for free. Stone Harbour as well, he'll probably be looking at that incident and not quite laughing. Of course, you might recall, George, back at Blue Moon Bay, Stone, he did the exact same thing when it was time for him to pit. He slammed into the wall, and that effectively ended his race. So the fact that it's happened to someone who's not him, I'm sure he will be, you can only laugh about these sorts of things. But yeah, look, 4 laps in, we're starting our 4th lap already, and things are just really starting to calm down. So I think a lot of these guys are just trying to get the laps done, because again, we just need to last the distance to be able to make the swap over on the tyres, and then from there they can breathe a bit easier. No one wants to burn up their softs too early in the race and then be on the back foot for the entire time.
Exactly. We were just watching the beautiful overtake by Angus Allen. Moves himself up into P5, 11.3 seconds off the leader of this race. Let's go through the order as it stands right now. Matthew McEwen out to a 4-second advantage, holds the fastest lap, a 141.113. This man is really unstoppable right now in the Supra at Catalunya. Then of course 4.5 seconds now back. It is Scotty Ray in P2. He's got a 3-second gap to Ben Groves. So the two youngsters with their fathers in tow. Maybe there's a father advantage going on between these two. Nonetheless, they are up into the podium positions. P3 for Ben Groves and P4 for Rhys Davidson. I get the feeling he is on the hard tyres, because his pace has just not been there early on. He got that opportunism that he took in turn 1 on lap 1. Got into the lead, immediately overtaken by Matt McEwen again. I suspect he's probably on that hard tyre. Then it is Angus Allen in P6, followed by Stone Harbour, and that is Andre Skeppers in P7. And it is GD Crimson in P7, Clan Fever in P8, and Lewis is now out of the pits, and he is fighting with Clan Fever. There is a battle out on track.
Yeah, there's definitely, and again, these two guys are pitted, so just because they're a bit further behind, don't think that it's necessarily because they've crashed. They have also taken their pits and their tyres, so they will catch up once the sort of the pit running order sorts themselves out. But I mean, if they're going to keep fighting like this, it might just cost them some time. If they want to try and catch up, they might want to look at working together. Of course, the driver's briefing beforehand, they were told bump drafting is legal, so if they want to try and team up and work, bump drafting's totally legal. They're happy to do it, and yeah, so that might be an interesting. That might play into their hands a bit later on.
It may well do. We're going to go on board for a lap here. We've got 13 laps in this race. We're just coming on to the 5th lap, technically the 6th lap, but 5th lap overall in this sprint race. A down, hard braking zone into turn 1. Get it turned in nicely. A little bit of drift in the rear end of that car there for this Group 3 class. Always tricky to get it braked in because of the trail braking required in this Group 3 class. Now you're into turn 3. Long, fast, sweeping right-hander as we head under the bridge and into this beautiful section. I said before, I really like this. Repsol is the corner name. It is a great corner. Tricky though, because it's technically multi-apex. You don't usually realize it, but you've also got to be very patient on the exit, patient on the throttle. Get it listed out nice and wide, and then you're into the braking zone. It's downhill, it's on camber, doesn't help you at all because the exit's off camber. Suddenly you're on that ripple strip. It's not easy to get the car going again, and the hardest corner in the game, in my opinion, in the entire game, in my opinion. Turn 7 here at Catalunya, through turn 8 and into turn 9. This is a fun section in this last sector.
Yeah, and the cambers are very subtle too. You almost don't really notice it until you've made a mess of it. But yeah, like you say, on camber, off camber, the transitions are very rapid, very quick, and I would actually agree with you that turn 7's very difficult. We used to see it in the World Series, didn't we? Some of the very best, and they would still get caught out by that particular corner. There's something about it. It's called TV3. Not quite sure why it's called TV3, but it's called TV3. So.
Yes, I think there might be a translation thing or something going on there. We've just gone through turn 10, hard braking zone is that one, now through the no chicane area. Used to be a little loop, you can see that off to the right hand side there. Europe car, it is now called. Why it's called that, we don't know. It's turn 13, so it's a little bit cursed, as we all know.
Yep, that's entirely possible. And again, like you say, that chicane bit wasn't the most popular addition, but it's we don't have to worry about it for this race. And that's I know for a fact a few of those drivers did breathe a sigh of relief when it was announced that we'd be racing at Catalunya. Yeah, truly dynamic lap. And aside from the really long main straight, there's really nowhere else to take a mental breather, is there? So
that's right. It is a very, very tricky lap, especially when you get to that infill section. Here's Ben McDonald. Of course, Chidi Crimson, he does have a 0.5 second penalty to his name. He's just come into the pit lane too, so he switched out for some fresh tyres, sitting in P6 right now. He is 24 seconds, as you can see, 25 seconds behind Angus Allen, but Angus Allen has yet to pit, as has most of the rest of the field. P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all yet to do their mandatory pit stop. We may see another couple come in short order, as we are now approaching the half race distance. 13 laps will conclude this race, and the checkered flag will be taken by whoever comes across the line first. That's how racing works. So I understand it. I think that's right.
that's how racing works, I do think. And of course, the penalty line is just after your turn 9, so it's that little straight on the run to turn 10. So it's not, it's not the biggest penalty in the world as such. If it was on the main straight, that would be a bit more painful. But anyway, he's cleared that penalty. He's sorted. How good are the young guns at the moment too? Sly Ben the Cat and Scotty Ray both still doing phenomenally, and they're against some of the very best in the country. This is the world of esports is really in a good place, isn't it? So we're seeing it now. Penalty for Sly Ben, though, of course, as soon as I say that. So commentary curse there, perhaps once again for Ben Groves. Sorry, mate. But yeah, no. Look at how this field has basically split into two separate categories, hasn't it? So he's currently reining in Scotty, just marginally, little bits. But yeah, unfortunately, all that progress is going to get undone when he serves this half a second penalty.
Yeah, half second does equate to quite the slowdown on track. We're going to have a little look on board with Ben Groves as he gets this penalty applied to him. So he's just going through turn 7-8 right now and up towards this fast right-hander. Very tricky corner to get right. Looks like he has nailed the apex, though. Absolutely nailed it. You can see these yellow dots on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the track. That's where your penalty is applied. It's a 0.5 second slowdown. So you actually lose more than that out on track. That's something to be aware of. Ben Groves hasn't lost too much in this case to Scotty Ray, and we'll continue to charge in on him. That fastest lap from him, a 42.0, is about a second and a bit off of the top time we've seen from Matt McEwen, who's just rapidly moving faster and faster, nearly every lap setting something that's even faster. Now is a 140.900, so he's just continuing to accelerate out front. But the battle between these two youngsters is going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. Both of them got a long and amazing career in front of them in terms of their sim racing hobby, I should say. Who knows if they'll get into professional racing? I'm sure they have some plans themselves. Scotty Ray, of course, in P2, he's doing very well. 1.2 seconds the gap, so slipstream going to become an issue here for Scotty Ray shortly.
Yeah, he's slipping into that danger zone. Of course, the slipstream is about a second. In fact, I think it's a little bit more than a second. So, Sly Ben, he's going to slowly start to capitalise on that if he can't pull a gap soon. But again, we're getting towards the latter laps, and that's when we're probably going to see the rest of these guys come in and do that mandatory stop. Of course, they do have to take a stop. Their tyres might not necessarily be worn, but it is a mandatory required stop. You're not allowed to take the hard tyres and just try and make them last the whole race distance, as much as you probably could. Organisers decided that one mandatory stop, you have to do it. So yeah, we're getting to the point where we might well start to see that happen. Some guys, they might decide to pit on the very last lap and only do one lap on the hard tyres, but by that point your softs would certainly be a little bit more than worn. So we'll see a few strategies play out. We're already seeing a few of them putting their chips on the earlier half of the race, but now, as we're just seeing Sly Ben having a move up the inside, he's having a think about it. And this is definitely one of the complexes where he might want to, he might not make a move necessarily here, but if he can get this line right, it will set him up for a nice big slipstream. And he's got the inside. Can he make it stick? He sends it. And now the situation completely 180s, because now Scotty Ray, oh no, he's in the pits. Okay, never mind. I thought he was going to try and stick with him there and catch a slipstream down that massive straight, but he's decided to come in instead. So coming in at the start of lap 9, so he's got about 4 laps to do on that hard compounder tyres. That's an interesting call.
Yep,
that's a very interesting call. And of course, we don't get to see how good their tyres are or how bad their tyres are worn. But yeah, He's made a very interesting call, not perhaps one that I would have made, but I'd be very interested to see how that works out for him.
Yep, and unfortunately, we are not Div 1 drivers. These guys are. I'm sure they're making the right decisions out there. Scott Ray has come into the pits. That's the animation there. You get a little bit of a breather, which is always really nice. You come into that pits for that brief moment. The game takes control of the car, as long as you don't crash into the wall. Unfortunately, we did see Lewis do that. He is back up to P7. We'll go back and have a little look at what Lewis Atkinson has done in terms of the way of getting a little bit of extra progress after that collision. He will be on a different tyre for a little bit, whether or not he has to pit again for another compound. It was an early pit stop by Lewis, so not quite sure what his strategy thinking is today. He's been practicing hard though. GD Crimson just ahead of him in P6, believe he has pitted. Then of course Scotty Ray just coming out ahead of them in P5. The rest ahead still all need to pit. McEwen still sitting there with the fastest lap, still ahead. Ben Groves unleashed after that brilliant overtake into turn 13. Really nice job by the young men.
Definitely one of the overtakes of the race. So I think if we did highlights packages for the races, that would certainly be on it. Lewis, though, he's closing that gap to Crimson, so he's down to 0.2 of a second. We might see a carbon copy of what just happened earlier with the others. But again, like you say, because he was forced to take that such an unscheduled pit stop, and he would have copped damage from that too. What does he do now as he's going up to the left-hand side of Crimson there? He's going to make the move. But is he going to do enough? Because you know how quickly the crossback can happen. Oh, there's a bit of contact though. And depending on how Crimson feels about that, he might want to put that to the stewards. I don't know. The drivers were given a slight window if they could put stuff to the stewards, as we see Ted now in the pits. So going to be very interesting to see. We are running out of laps now, so those who haven't done their stops here, they do have to start thinking about it. So we see none of this little battle pack, but again, nice long straight now. Don't actually know the exact length of the straight, but I'd certainly...
GD Crimson is in a massive battle right now, and that is with Stone Harbour, who's managed to make a beautiful overtake through the last couple of sections into turn 10, 11, 12, and that is going to be Andre up into the P6 position. Overtakes GD Crimson and will now be chasing after Lewis. Lewis also making it past as well. He's got two yellow cars in a row. Scotty Ray actually falling back, hasn't really got the pace at the moment, but that may just be the tyre choice. A whole bunch of interesting strategies happening. We had Big Head Ted come into the pit stop as well. I think he ran long on the soft tyres. Angus Allen now in the pits as well. P8 for him. He'll come out just behind Reese Davidson. And Stone Harbour now making this charge. Is 1.8 seconds away, but it's Lewis really pushing the way forward right now. And Scotty Ray is going to be under pressure very, very soon. As you can see also out front, we've had McEwen pit and Ben Groves pit. So it's really rank and file order at the moment. Positions are what they appear to be on the track. 11th lap of this race. It's a couple more laps to make something happen. If Lewis wants a podium position, he's got to make it happen now. If Scotty Ray wants to hold on to it, he has got to do some serious defending against an experienced man like Lewis Atkinson, then Ben Groves. He has got to be worried because there's two cars coming up rapidly in front of him. Matt McEwen, he's out to a fair lead.
Yeah, Lewis is really fired up, and of course you would be after such an early incident, but he's managed to turn that one around by the looks of it. Fighting for a podium, I mean, how good. That is some tremendous pace on display there. And, I mean, dude, like you say, what are we going to see with only a handful of laps left to go? Not even that. It's really do or die now for a lot of these guys. As we look like Lewis centered up the inside of Scotty just then. I think that's what happened there. Yeah, and he's made the move stick for the time being. Again, if it was a bit excess, he might have a case to answer for the stewards, but I mean, for the here and the now, that was pretty ballsy, especially that late in the race and having run your tyres that long. So I mean, I don't think we caught what tyres he started the race on. He was on the hards, so he's done a long stint on the softs, so those will be feeling a little bit worn by now. But I mean, you wouldn't know it looking at him. He's up to third place, and now he's just starting to reel in Ben Groves.
Exactly. There's also a battle here. Scotty Ray falling under a bit of pressure now from Andre Skeppers. By the way, yeah, Matt McEwen has not yet pitted. 50-second gap is way too big. So, yeah, at the end of the day, he has not yet pitted. He may be coming in on this lap. He must come in this lap. So this will be interesting. Let's keep an eye on this battle. It's, Scotty Ray under a lot of pressure now. Andre's got him around the outside of turn 3, but that'll rapidly become the outside into turn 4. Nice little bit of battle between these two, but Andre Skeppers has managed to do it. And there's a little bit of contact between the two because Andre was a little bit off line as he came into that corner. Flash of the lights there as well. Probably knows that he's about to be put on camera. Nonetheless, it was a decent overtake for the most part. Scotty Ray going from P3 back to P5 in this race. There's McEwen. He's jumping into the pits now. He is going to do one lap on the hard tyres. He is taking the softs. 12 laps out of 13. Oh, moment there for Andre Scappers. We'll see the counter steering input on his video too. A little bit scary through that section, especially if you hit that curb.
Yeah, I mean, what was your prediction on the soft tyre life? Like 6 laps?
It's supposed to be 6 laps.
McEwen's just doubled your prediction.
Everyone was saying 6 laps. Everything was 6 laps.
So that's a tremendous effort, but of course, if anyone was going to do it, he was, right? And I mean, look at this, 53 seconds when he come into the pit lane. Once he's come out, he's still got the better part of an entire sector of advantage on everybody else. The man's in a league of his own. And one more lap to go, mate. All he has to do is Sunday drive in comparison.
That's right. Ben Groves is holding on to P2, but he's got Lewis Atkinson right behind him, and these two are actually positioned right next to each other in the Grand Finals event live here from Wellington. So Ben Groves is going to be a bit worried because that slipstream, it is the last time that they're going to have to go through that section of track at the end of this because the checkered flag is halfway down this pit straight. That means Ben Groves just needs to navigate this infield, do it successfully. Key corner for him is going to be turn 9 onto that back straight into the braking zone of 10. Can he defend against Lewis? This is going to be really, really key. Lewis Atkinson in P3, then it is Andre Skeppers in P4, Scotty Ray in P5, unfortunately just losing out in the latter half of this race. Must have switched on to those hard tyres and just couldn't get them lit up like he needed to. Reese Davidson down in P6. A little bit of fall from grace there from P2. Started this race in P2. And of course GD Crimson, Angus Allen, and then Olaf Fresh is rounding out the field in P9 right now. We go on board with Lewis Atkinson for the last bit of this lap before we get to the final corner.
And you can see 0.4 of a second. If he's going to make a move, he's got a couple of really good corners to make a move. But what's he going to do? He's on the brakes. He's really catching up at the moment. Not quite going to get it at the apex of 10, but you never know. As we see McEwen crossing the finish line, so that is a well-earned victory for the World Tour driver, the man you would expect to take out, especially in a Group 3 car. It's quite the familiar one for anybody who's raced in the World Series. In the meantime, Ben versus Lewis. Looks like Ben's going to have the upper hand, and I don't think Lewis is going to be able to answer to that, but that's not taking away what a titanic comeback drive that was from Lewis. Ben Groves is your second place recipient. He will be absolutely stoked with that, and so will his dad, I'm sure. Lewis in third, Harbour in fourth, Scotty Ray fifth place after a phenomenal drive, and like you say, Reese Davidson P6, and yeah, he might not be too happy with that, but again, he did say it would be a bit of a tough day in the office. And I mean, you're seeing it now. Look at some of that camaraderie between these guys. They're all congratulating each other and fist bumping and just generally being real good buggers about it, mate, regardless of the wins and the losses in that story.
Yeah, really nice to see the elation there on Ben Groves' face. He was relieved to get to the end there with Lewis Atkinson right on his tail. But yeah, they're right next to each other in the live event. So that does mean that they are in a situation that allows them to talk to each other, which is fantastic. And I'm just going to try and find the right setting here. We have to jump to the main capture for just a second so we can bring... Right now is going to be Matt McEwen. So for the second time, he returns to the interview box in short order. We'll be interviewing Lewis Atkinson before we get to that, but the top three will be interviewed. And this is going to be our order for the feature race which we will talk about in depth very, very soon. That lap, 140.9. I think we're going to have to ask him about that. That is amazing pace, but we know McEwen is super, super fast in these cars. Ben Groves, I'll take my hat off to this young man. He is throughout the entire season shown some real pace and real consistency. Amazing job by him. And then Lewis Atkinson, it's a well-deserved podium. What a recovery drive. And like I said, when he hit that wall and you could see him sort of take a moment to realize what had happened, and he was just like, you know, it's easy to get upset. It's easy to get a bit angry. But, mate, he just reversed it, put it in the pits, and got back to work, basically. And that is a stellar effort from him. Also want to talk about Ted. That lap 1, turn 1 move, I mean, we'll be asking McEwen about it, whether he saw that coming. But, you know, regardless of how the rest of his race went, I
I really like that move. I love it when they do the ballsy moves, and they do it clean too. Because there's a way to race hard and fair and not be, called up to the stewards. And he certainly succeeded in that, I do think.
Yeah, agreed. I think it was a nice move. It was, I think, given he was starting on a tyre that maybe was giving him a little bit of an early advantage. He was on the softs, but he was clearly wanting to use the softs early on and really push himself through the initial part of that race. Whereas McEwen took kind of the opposite approach. He was on the soft tyre, but he was going, I'm just going to take this a little bit more cautious. Oh, you want to overtake? Fantastic. Well, we saw 9 corners later. That move was made back by Matt McEwen. He was right ahead. So this is the thing with balancing the tyres. It is a tricky thing to get right. But yeah, it was a good move at the end of the day. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Rhys Davidson. Scotty Ray, also one of those that had a really good start, ended up just falling down the pack when he switched onto those hard tyres. So obviously wasn't quite feeling completely gelled with the Group 3 Supra when it put on those hard tyres. For those of you who are not in the know, there is a massive difference in grip. You have to adjust your driving style. You have to take the corners very, very differently, especially at a circuit like this. We are so reliant on that mechanical grip.
Oh, mate, and absolutely. And we're seeing in the chat too, go Andre, super proud mum here in Christchurch. So definitely some of the people, appreciate all of you guys tuning in and catching up. Hopefully we've seen the last of the stream crashes and technical glitches, but we're doing our best. And again, there's a whole team behind the scenes putting this coverage to you guys. We will do that uninterrupted coverage after the event. But mate, absolute epic race to kick off this finals event here in Wellington. I think we're going to be hearing from Lewis fairly soon, hopefully.
As we literally look behind us, waiting for Lewis Atkinson to step into the commentary booth, we shall see him in a few moments' time. Some great moments around there. Of course, the final order, Matt McEwen from Ben Groves, from Lewis Atkinson, from Andre Skepper. A lekker job by him today. I think that's the word. I think that's the right word to be using. Then, of course, Scotty Ray, followed by Rhys Davidson. It is then Crimson, that is Ben McDonald, followed by Angus Allen and Olaf Fresh, who does finish in that P9 position. We'll have to see how he's gone today. But nonetheless, we now get to hand the microphone over to Lewis Atkinson, and we'll jump over to our interview slot, and let's talk to this man right here. First question, pit entry. Please explain what on earth happened.
Yeah, the ball just jumped out of nowhere.
Oh, no.
I got no excuse for that. I knew I had to brake for it, but obviously not enough, and yeah, it was pretty costly.
Wow, so luckily the GT7 takes over the car as it gets into the pit lane. It's not too far away from where you entered into the wall, so you still lost a lot of time, but maybe wasn't as bad as it looks out on track.
No, yeah, it was a lot of time.
It was a lot of time.
Well, the 3 second, and I got a half second on that outlap too. It was pretty costly, yeah. But
Well, the but here is the recovery drive, and you're now here in the interview box after that accident. P3, congratulations. Well done. What a drive back. You had some fast chaps around you. It's a bit of overtaking yet to do today.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun. Got a bit elbows out, having to pass a few people. And yeah, it was interesting to see the different strategies through the tyre compounds, whether you're going to go soft and push it or soft and conserve. No, it was really cool.
Awesome, and yeah, we saw a few instances there of you battling with obviously trying to force your way through. Was there a bit of red mist there, or was it all sort of cool, calm, and collected?
No, just every position I gained, it was just better than what could have been.
Awesome, and yeah, final race is going to be wings and slicks at Daytona. Is that something that you're sort of confident with? Because open wheelers, mate, completely different animal to anything we've driven this season.
I do feel pretty confident with a bit of high downforce. As long as I can get past the first turn, I should be in for an alright race.
Too right.
And the pit lane seems a bit easy though.
I was going to say, as long as you can get past the pit lane too.
There is no wall at the pit lane for you to crash into, luckily, so no worries there. But think no more of it. What could have been P3 at the end of the day is nothing to scoff at whatsoever. Lines you up well on the grid too, so congratulations on the P3, Lewis. Thanks for jumping into our makeshift commentary box here, which we had to sort of make on the fly, which is great fun, and we'll hopefully be talking to you after the feature race.
Cheers, boys. See you after.
Cheers.
And that is Lewis Atkinson, HC Lewis, the teen sensation, as he was called in the build-up to this event. And he won't like me calling that, of course, or maybe he will. We never know. But
well, you're his boss, so at the end of the day, I don't think he's got a say in that. Next up is going to be our P2 finisher. Absolutely, and so we will indeed be getting Ben Groves into the commentary box. Make sure you hold that nice and close to your face, and we will get to you on the stream. Ben, what a race. You had it in there with Scotty Ray for a little bit of time. You managed to get the overtake through, I believe it was turn 10. It was a really nice run up the inside line there, and congratulations. P2, how are you feeling?
Thank you. It was good. I ran pretty long on the softs. Well, I think it was longest apart from McEwen. And then, well, what happened? And then I got, Then I got caught up with Lewis, but I realised he was losing out lots in the, the right-hand turns, and I just kind of tried to go cautious through there, and then the rest of it I was just trying to stay smooth because I knew I'd be fast. Well, I knew I'd be faster through the right-hand turns.
Yeah. You looked relieved at the end of the race because it was tricky and you had a lot of pressure coming from behind you. There was Stone Harbour was there. Lewis was obviously coming through the pack. Scotty Ray you were fighting with him earlier on, of course. He was slightly dropping away from the pack, so there's a little bit of relief from that, but you had a significant amount of relief on your face at the end of this race.
Yeah, it was good because I think last time I was going for a podium. I think it was with dive cable and I took myself out, which wasn't great. So
yeah.
No, awesome. And yeah, again, with the Group 3 Supra, I mean, we were talking to some of the guys beforehand, and it wasn't their most favourite car in the world. How does that compare for you? Sort of happy with it, or would you rather, you're looking forward to Daytona?
I don't like the Group 3 cars really. I just find them. I like the Group 4 cars. You slide them a bit more, but if you slide the Group 3 cars, you're just gonna be losing heaps of time. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit different from others. But then the Super Formulas, I think I'm going all right in practice. But then I think I had a wrong setting at home when I was practicing. So.
Oh, okay.
So I think I'm back to where I was pace-wise.
No, well, hey, we're only minutes away from finding out. So, no, good stuff, mate. P2, you got to be happy with that. And I'm sure your dad will be stoked with that too. Might well see you in the box again.
Yeah, maybe.
Brilliant. Yep, hopefully indeed. Congratulations, Ben Groves. Well done, mate. Good luck for the feature race. All right, so we did try to adjust the volume through that as well. We are already at the maximum volume right now, so we hope that you caught the words of Ben Groves. But that is a young man.
Yeah.
That is a young man, very relieved with a very good result under a lot of pressure in that race. I got to wish him some congratulations there. We have our P1 victor here back in the commentary box. Matthew McEwen, welcome back.
Thank you.
Fastest lap, 1 minute 40.9 flat. Really, really good lap there. You got away nicely. Tell us about that first lap, first turn, because Reese Davidson said, you know what, I want to go hard, I want to send it, and he did.
I forgot that we were off the grid start, and so I braked too early.
Oh, no.
And he braked at the normal point and went flying past me. And so I was just like, okay, well, I got to send it on him.
Yeah.
And I figured that he might have forgotten about the wind or something, and it turned out there was a headwind into that hairpin that I sent it. And so I decided, well, I reckon I can outbrake him. And then, just sent it nice and deep. And, he braked nice and early and just left me the space. So fair play to him. He didn't just shut the door and break it or anything.
Yeah, it was a nice move around the outside at turn 1 at the end of the day. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So what's the mindset that you get into? You see that and you go, okay, now I need to figure out what's the advantages of his driving, my driving, the weaknesses, where can I overtake? Was wind direction the only thing? Did you notice anything that Reese was doing that gave you an indicator?
Not really, besides possibly the wind. It was a bit of a guess, but I just decided to give it a go and see what happens. Worst comes to worst, we have a little bit of a bump and I just have to give him the spot back and hopefully have a go later.
Yeah, the other thing is 12 laps on the soft tyres. Tell us about that, because our prediction sheet told us 6 laps. We went plus or minus 4. Because you guys have been doing 2-3 laps more. You're like, I'd stay 6. All right.
Yeah, so it turns out if you're really, really careful, you can make them last quite a while because, of course, instead of having the option to use the mediums, we have to use the hards. And so, of course, that's a significant amount slower. You're really just driving around like a bus, although I think the Supra is a bus anyway. You're driving around like a bus on bus tyres as well, and it's just horrible. And so I figured that you might as well just be really, really gentle on the tyres and just make them last longer and longer, and it turns out that it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about the Tsukuba race, well, the qualifying, it wasn't a race, with the water sort of being, Gran Turismo sort of models the way of the flow of the water, and wind is another one of those things that a lot of people don't really recognize just how much of an impact it has on your car. Like you say, headwinds you can brake a bit later, tailwinds maybe you need to brake a bit earlier. Is that one of those aspects of racing in Gran Turismo especially that people just sleep on and they don't actually realize that it's that important?
Yeah, 100%. Everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people do just forget that it exists. And the wind was doing insane things in that race, actually. It did a full 180, and then it did another full 180 a few laps later. And so it was doing really, really crazy stuff. You learn, you start to get really comfortable with it in the first 2 laps or so, and then it just flipped. And I saw the gaps just go up because I saw it. I was lucky enough to see it go around. It was really quick. It only took a few seconds for it to go around. And yeah, I was lucky enough to see it. So I was able to adapt. And yeah, it's something that really, really catches people out.
And with the last race being Super Formula cars, wings and slicks, and of course aeros, much more of a aspect of the racing here. Is the wind's going to be much more important there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the super formulas are really, really sensitive to it, and they things like the top speed as well is going to be a fuel race. We can't make it on fuel, and so if we've got a tailwind on the straights, it ends up actually being a little bit funky because we go faster, but not much faster, but we waste a bunch of fuel revving it up to higher revs. And so a lot of weird things go on with this race. I think it's going to be quite interesting. I can't really predict it.
There we go.
Well, that's your Gran Turismo top tip from Matt Verstappen. Pay attention to the wind. So
that's right.
Awesome, good stuff, Matt. Well, you better go and prepare for the feature race. It's going to be a very interesting race with all the strategy elements that they've cooked up, and might see you a bit later on.
Cool, thank you.
Yep, congratulations. Thank you very much, Matt McEwen, ladies and gentlemen.
I think you liked
Absolutely,
that.
yeah. So we apologise if there is a little bit of low volume on the mic. We're trying to sort it out as much as possible. The drivers were given an instruction on how to really place the microphone right next to where their mouth is, but it's a tricky one and the microphone is a little bit low, so we apologise that. We'll try and get the volume increased. Right, let's jump back to our commentary screen here. Okay, It has been an extreme rapid event so far. Qualifying was very intense. Then we've had a very intense sprint race. Do you think we give the drivers a break now? Make it easier on them?
I reckon we should just executive decision. Let's make the last race one lap of Route X in Fiat Bambinas, and then we can all go home and be happy.
No deal. No deal. No deal. Let's make it harder on them. Strategy and the car and even the circuit in some ways actually going to get a lot harder. This feature race is super, super cool. We will be going through the information on that in a few moments' time. I'm going to double check a couple of messages, and we're going to do a little bit of a technical double check on this side as well. So we'll be back after a 10-minute intermission. We will see you all very, very soon.
Sweet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. We've had a short intermission just to make sure that a couple of technical things are all sorted out. We hope you're all having a fantastic time. For those live here in Wellington, welcome, of course, to the Respawn Esports Centre. We're going out on 4 channels today. New Zealand Sim Racing TV have given us a spot on their YouTube and Twitch, and Respawn Esports, of course, on their YouTube and Twitch as well. So a big multi-stream effort here today. We are barreling towards the last bit of this championship. It all comes down to the feature race. We're going to talk more about the car, the strategy, which inevitably we'll probably be wrong on, and a few other things as well. But first, we want to have a little bit of a segment. We needed a breather, and we needed some points to be calculated. So we now have our current live final scoring here. Nathan, take us through.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is all leading up to the final event, which is double points too, by the way. So anybody can still come and cause a massive upset. But here's where we are at the moment. Matthew McEwen, 18 points. He's the one to beat, and he is definitely enjoying a bit of supremacy at the moment, especially after that performance in Barcelona. What the heck was that? Lewis Atkinson, he's up to second. He's got 11 points to his name. He'll be really happy with that, given how his race went. And of course, he didn't have the best qualifying, so he's managed to make something out of it. Then we have a tie for third. We have Reese Davidson, Big Head Ted, and Ben Groves, Sly Ben the Cat, both on 10 points each. So again, what's going to come of that sort of little showdown? Interesting stories there to be seen. And then Scotty Shot and Stone Harbour equal tied on 7 points. So we got a tie for third, and we got a tie for fifth. So two ties going on at the moment, and of course it will all be decided very, very soon. Then we have Ben McDonald, Crimson, in position 7 with 6 points. Not Gareth. Gareth has got 4 points, even though he's not here. But
he's got 4 points, but
they
don't get
4
redistributed. Yep.
Angus Allen, Angus GTR, 3 points, and then Olaf Flesh, Clam Fever, currently sitting on 2 points. But again, we have to stress double points for the big finale, so anything can happen. And to be fair, George, it probably will.
Well, this is the thing. We'll talk more about the race that we've got coming up and why there's so much variability in it, because it is a good race that we've got coming up. Yeah, so some big winners in this, some great battles going on, and it all comes down to this, our final race, which, for those of you who don't know, it is the legendary Daytona. We're going to Daytona Circuit, ladies and gentlemen, back to the United States of America, and today we will be in the Super Formula 23 karts, the Dallara SF23, the Toyota spec of that, of course. So let's have more horsepower, half the weight, turbo aspiration, nearly 1,000 performance points on this absolute weapon. And I hear that there's a boost button, Nathan.
Oh, it's got a boost button, which everybody likes a bit of boost, don't you? It's not a Formula 1 car, so it's easy for people to say that it looks like a Formula 1 car, and you're right, it does, but it is a Super Formula car. It's a Japanese equivalent. They're about probably Formula 2 as far as speed and spec and lap pace. But, you know, wings, slicks, a lot of power, and like you say, a boost button. Even Formula 1 doesn't have a boost button,
That's
George.
right.
So that's and it's not DRS. It is actually an electronic overboost that raises the power for a very temporary time. And as a unique point of difference, the drivers are free to activate it whenever they see fit. It's not some sort of preset boost that comes on at certain. There's no DRS zones. There's nothing like that. It's here's how much boost you've got. Use it whenever you want.
Well, this is the key thing. It's a limited resource. It's almost like the tyres. So, they've got to make sure that they use the boost in appropriate mounts at the appropriate time. If they don't do that, then they are going to be in trouble. You might find yourself at the end of the race with an overtake opportunity into the final corner for a position or even a win, suddenly with no boost.
We'll
All
see.
those in behind you've got boost. That's it.
We'll see when Gran Turismo added the Super Formula cars, because it was the 2019 cars originally.
Yes.
And they were very quick. Like, they were actually quicker than these ones. These ones are a bit slower, but in real life, the big claim to fame is that they're a lot more environmentally friendly. They're made with more recycled materials. I think the tires are something like 50% recycled rubber. So they're still quick, but they are a lot more environmentally conscious, and of course with the world going more green, more sustainable with fuel and with consumables, that is a huge step forward. But of course that doesn't matter in the world of sim racing, does it?
No.
But nonetheless, we are still using the SF23 as a modern. It's the current car. It's the car that Liam Lawson's driven in Super Formula in Japan. It's the car Igor Fraga's done a bit of driving in Super Formula in Japan, and now our drivers are about to use it. Where are they going to use it exactly?
Well, they're going to be using it at Daytona, right? And Daytona is a fantastic place to go racing. You've got the outfield. You've got the infield. The infield specifically designed for those non-NASCAR races. NASCAR, of course, incredibly famous around here. It's got a huge, huge history here in Florida, in the United States of America. 12 corners, which you wouldn't usually call them 12 corners because of the outside loop. It's basically got 0 corners if you're a mathematician. Nonetheless, turn 1, heavy braking zone. Got to watch for the invisible barrier on the exit of the pit lane. We'll talk more about that shortly because I believe both Nathan and I have had encounters with that invisible barrier. Embarrassingly to say, nonetheless, the heavy braking zone, good for overtaking. Going to be very, very key start. Rolling start here today as well, so there shouldn't be any massive incidents down to turn 1, at least on that first lap. Turn 7 to 9, of course, once you get through that infield key, got to get a good run out of there. And slipstream here is going to be the massive question. You've got the run all the way through turn 7, 8, towards the bus stop chicane, turn 9, turn 10. Watch the exit there on turn 10. Don't get a penalty, because that is where you're likely going to pick one up. Then barrel your way out through turn 11, 12, and the long left-hander towards the finish line. Even if you're into position 2 here, at the end of the race, 100 meters before the finish line, before that checkered flag, if you've got the boost, if you've got the slipstream, you can win this race.
Certainly right. And I mean, again, you're talking about wings and slicks too. And the thing about open wheel is the faster you drive in them, the more aero they've got, the more grip they've got. So it demands commitment, it demands bravery. And I mean, especially I'd be watching that turn 9, 10 bus stop. That's going to be a massively quick corner, especially in Formula cars. They're going to be doing north of 250 k's an hour, and I'll tell you what, that little complex there, that's not going to slow them down very much. They're going to want to take that as max attack as possible because, like you say, afterwards, it's just a flat run all the way back to turn 1, and the potential for overtaking and the potential for upsets, it's second to none.
It's going to be a really spicy race. I mean, we usually don't use the word spicy for these kinds of things, but it is genuinely going to be a very, very interesting race. It's an incredibly tactical race as well, and that leads into our strategy, because the strategy today is 4 times tyre wear. So for every lap you do, the tyres experience 4 laps of wear. That is a lot, and the fuel wear as well. Not just 1x as we saw, it is now 2 times. So for every lap, you consume 2 laps worth of fuel. So fuel now becomes a key element of today's strategy. The expected life, we have 3 compounds available. All of them are mandatory today. You must use the racing softs. You must use the racing mediums. You must use the racing hard tyres. So you're going to have at minimum 2 stops today to complete. Luckily, the pit stop is reasonably short, but it's so high speed around the circuit there, you do lose a lot of time. Expected tyre life here for the racing softs, 10 laps. We're already laughing about this because I'm wrong already. Expected life, 15 laps for the racing mediums, and of course the racing hard tyres, 25 laps.
And if your name is Matthew McEwen, then it's actually 15, 20, and 30 laps, respectively.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, look, we'll say, hey, look, having all 3 tyres mandatory, this is going to be a real question mark because we don't know what the meta is for this. We don't know. Do you start on the hards and then you get a little bit faster with the mediums and then you have a real good push with the softs? Or do you go softs and then mediums and then hards? Or do you go mediums and then hards and then so? I mean, dude, what do you do? And a lot of that's going to come from obviously how we start, how things kick off. I mean, we saw with Lewis, his first stint was very, very cut short with a bit of a crash, which I say bit of, that's understating it. He got completely taken out by himself, by a wall that freakishly jumped out at him, or so I'm told. But look, this is definitely, it's going to be very interesting to see who starts on what compounds. I have an idea of, what some people are going to choose, but others, it's just, what do you do? What's the right answer?
Yeah, exactly right. It's a tricky question to answer, not one that we're going to be able to answer here because there are 9 drivers today. There are going to be 9 strategies out there for us to observe. So we're going to keep up as best we can with the action that's going out on track. There's going to be a lot of it. It's a very high-paced race. There's a lot of strategy, and the strategy will change moment to moment. We're going to keep an eye on wind. Very key thing that was raised by Matt McEwen as well. So it's going to be a key one here for these Super Formula cars, especially through that infield section. A couple of housekeeping items before we get get into our feature race, it is important for us to thank our sponsors. P1 at the end of this championship is going to take home a real-life racing drive sponsored by Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. Big thanks to them for putting that on offer. And of course, Next Level Racing providing both the GT Light cockpit and the haptic seat controls for P2 and P3 respectively in this race. Big thanks to Next Level Racing too. Of course, Red Bull NZ, big thanks to them. They're going to be sponsoring some prizes outside of the racing finish here today, including Best Livery through the online season, which is a very, very cool prize to get. Respawn Esports, a massive thanks to them because we're here in Wellington at the Respawn Esports Centre. We've enjoyed the food here. We've enjoyed the community here. It's absolutely awesome. Make sure you pay a visit when you're next down. Big thanks also to Secret Labs, and we've also got Hooncorp in the background. And a big thanks to Tom England, because that man has done so much in the background of this. Tom will hopefully be jumping in for an interview at the end of this race and the end of this series, so we shall hopefully talk to him soon. But I think it may be time for us to go feature racing.
I certainly agree with that. And I mean, again, these guys are getting their final little bits and pieces sorted, their strategies mapped out. Hopefully they've got an overtake button mapped out, because like you say, that is going to be a very valuable resource come the business end of this race. And yeah, like you say, the dreaded invisible pit wall, which can haunt even the most experienced of drivers. So that's going to be, yeah, I think we're in for a treat here. And again, like you say, rolling start. I don't think we've actually done a rolling start this race yet.
No, we haven't, yeah.
Because it's just that treacherous of a start line, obviously being banked, and it's NASCAR. But how good is this? Double file rolling start.
This is what actually makes it really, really fun. You don't have to worry about the getaway. We are now racing. Feature race begins 33 laps, and it will be, of course, Matt McEwen into turn 1. It's actually a really good run off the line for Ben Groves, who's looking to make some early pressure against Matt McEwen. Does run very deep into turn 1. There's a spin in the background already. It looks like that was Big Head Ted around in the background, and he's already spun. So that's going to be a bit of a tricky fight back here for Rhys Davidson in this race. And it is, of course, Sly Ben the Cat, Ben Groves. Then it is Lewis Atkinson's the top 3, still in the order that they started this race in. Don't count out this man right here, Angus Schreppers. He is going to be fast in this race. There's a lot of people actually more familiar with these super formulas than the other formats.
Yeah, certainly it's not quite a niche, but it is certainly, it's got its own fans and followers. Reese did a good job to gather it up quickly, so he hasn't actually lost too much time as far as he's not been taken out of the running yet, so to speak. Still very, very early in the day. Now, pay attention to the rain light on these Super Formula cars. If you get a glimpse at the light on the rear end, that illuminates when they're using their overtake function. So if you ever see them flashing and it's a bit flashy bright lights, that means they are using their overtake overboost, which again, they only have a limited amount. And look at the commitment from these guys. Look at how quick they're jumping across those curbs. Some of them have got to pay attention not to be too greedy, because if they are deemed to be a bit too over the curbs, they will get a penalty, and a penalty at a track as fast as Daytona will be nothing short of detrimental to your title. And again, well, look at that. There we see it. The very first penalty of the race goes to Stone Harbour. Luckily, the penalty line is actually pretty straightforward. It's not the most painful in the world, but it's certainly that's taken him out of that little battle that he was in there with Scotty and Crimson. So he's going to do well to get back up to there. But again, look at the wind too. McEwen raised this point in his interview post-race that the wind direction actually plays a lot more of an effect than people would think. Currently, they've got pretty much a headwind on that back straight, but the trade-off is they'll get something of a tailwind down the main straight. So that's something to sort of bear in mind, isn't it?
Oh, and critically, a tail one into the braking zone at turn 1, which makes that corner all sorts of awkward. We saw a lot of people running very, very deep, missing their braking zone essentially because that tailwind is just pushing the car away from the apex. Really, really key in these cars. We've got 2 battle packs of 3 starting to evolve. McEwen, Ben Groves, Lewis Atkinson. Then it's a little bit of a gap back to Scotty Ray at the minute. So Scotty, that's the Sector 2 purple there by Andre. So good stuff there by him. Scotty Ray is the next one leading this battle pack. Scotty Ray in P4 at the moment, followed by Crimson. Of course, that is Ben McDonald, and then Stope Harbour looking through the remainder of the field. It's then Angus Allen. He's in a very interesting little situation here with Clan Fever. So Olaf Flesch willing to work together. Actually, something that's quite important. Look at the way that these cars jump around. That looks like a penalty for Angus Allen. Let's have a look. Keep an eye on this. He's actually gone purple, and that's the result of going purple through the bus stop chicane. 1.5 second penalty for Angus Allen, and I'm sure he will be absolutely gutted with that, but look at him. He is cool, calm and collected. He knows he just needs to serve that penalty. We're seeing so many different strategies play out in this, Nathan. It's going to be hard to tell really at the end of lap 2 where everyone is really at in this race.
Yeah, certainly not doing him any favours, but again, like you say, that is a very straightforward penalty. If you get a penalty, it's pretty much served that lap. Some of the tracks, depending on where the line is and whatnot, it does serve it the next lap. But for him, it was quick and painless. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It happened, it hurts, now on with the job. Interesting too, again, we talked earlier about how bump drafting is legal. And now, I don't think you'd really see it happening too much in real life, but in this game, you can get away with a bit of bump drafting. Obviously, you want to be careful not to crumple that aerofoil too much, but you were seeing it just then. A few of these guys deciding to work together with the bigger picture in mind, almost a truce. Almost a bit of a truce. I won't fight me, I'll help you, and then maybe we'll fight later on, we'll see. But for the here and the now, like you say, there's the better part of 30 laps left to go in this race. Very, very early days, and I suppose at the moment you'd be wanting to work with anybody who wasn't Matthew McEwen right now.
One of the key things, the drivers have mentioned this to us a few times over, is the ability to work with others in a race like this, because as we said before, you could be P2 right up to the checkered flag. Right at the end, you make that move, you make that send. If you that thing right, Daytona will reward you. So this is the key strategic thinking that needs to be in play. Yes, you need to nail the strategy. Yes, you need to find the fastest combination of tyres and pit stops and refueling through this race to make it to the end fastest. But at the end of the day, if the chap ahead of you is pulling you along and letting you save fuel, slide Ben the cat. Ben Groves going for a move on our race leader. Matt McEwen has to go defensive into turn 1. It won't be a move this time round. Ben Groves is looking quick. Slipstream in effect, might be using his boost, might be on a slicker tyre. We're not quite sure, but that is the fastest lap for Ben Groves, a 129.7.
Yes, certainly. And I mean, again, if you're Matthew McEwen, I mean, we don't know what tyre he's on. He could be on the mediums, he could be on the hards. So the fastest lap might have a little bit of an asterisk to its name at the moment, just while we wait for all. Obviously, all the drivers are still got to go through all 3 of those compounds. Not that it takes away the achievement from Ben Groves. That is still a tremendous lap, especially this early in the race. And look at him, he's just getting just on with the job, basically. Nice, cool, calm, collected, and again, 1.0 seconds to Matthew McEwen, so he is in that slipstream range. He could well start challenging Matthew for the lead, and Matthew knows it.
Exactly right, and you know, Matthew's going to have to be aware of the fact that Ben is going to be quick at this stage of the race. That fastest lap is going to shine a little bit of darkness, a little bit of shadow on Matt McEwen's success so far in this series. 1 second the gap, it's getting even more reduced. Matt McEwen is very quick through the bus stop, but not as quick as Ben Groves. We've been told that Ben Groves is actually one of the quicker racers here in these SF23 cars. He's very familiar with it, he's got great reaction speeds. That's helping him out in this situation. This is a repeat. Deja vu, we're on board with Ben Groves right now. A little bit tricky to see out the front of these cars, but this is as close as it's been, nearly as close as the last lap. Doesn't have the overtaking opportunity as we head into the 5th lap of this race. Still 2 pit stops to do. This just gets me. There is so much action in these races with these cars, and there is so much more to happen. We've still got to see all the pit strategies evolve. We've still got to see the refueling. We've still got to see the slipstream and boost usage at the end.
Yeah, where do you watch? Where do you follow? And I don't know if you remember, George, but when the Super Formulas first came out, when they first came to the game, the halo wasn't phased out. You might notice if you're watching on the onboard there, the halo's a bit sort of greyed out where your eyes would sort of be looking. Now, when you're using a real Super Formula car, when you're using a real open wheeler for that matter, most of them have got halos. It's a phenomenal innovation in safety. When you're sitting in one for real, your eyes look through the halo. If you've ever done the thing where you put your finger to your eyes and you get it closer and closer and closer, and you end up looking through it, right? That's what happens with the halos, but of course, when it's a game, when it's a screen, you don't get that effect. So Gran Turismo, they heard the feedback, they said, we don't want the halo, so they grayed it out. Sort of, it's one of those little acceptable breaks from reality, because again, in real life, you don't notice the halo. It's just one of those little things that they made, and again, to credit to them to listening to the player, right? So definitely, not to say that, I mean, who knows what cameras people are using. They might be using bumper, bonnet, cockpit, chase even. I know that there's a few of them that use chase. It's not the most popular opinion, but it is still an opinion. But yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot of tactics to be considered with this. Like you say, the fuel, the tyres, the aero itself, the wind, the overtake. And it's interesting too to mention that Ben was basically fully in slip just then, and still doing very, very high revs, so hopefully he's got the fuel numbers sorted too. We're going to need to see a bit of refueling too, because the fuel rate is, you know, accelerated, so that might come into effect too. How many times have we seen someone come into the pits and get the fuel count wrong, and then they come up a lap short.
Yeah, well, that's the scariest thing, I think, as a driver is, like, have you done your math right? And if something's changed in the race, how has that math now changed? How much have you planned to accommodate the change in the mathematical equation that is the fuel? So that's a key thing to be noting as well. Nonetheless, Matt McEwen still in the lead, has taken back that fastest lap, a 1:29.599 as it is right now. We just...
Oh, that's a pretty cool little angle.
That is a very cool view. We can thank Tom England for that. He's just come in and he's gone click, click, and given us this view, which I did not know existed on these cars.
That's pretty cool. What are we going to call that? TV cam? Because that looks about the sort of view that you'd see in an F1 broadcast.
Yeah.
Where they've got the little graphics that go up on
It's
the halo.
that 360 where you get the movement of the car as well. What do they call that? The gyro?
Gyroscopic or something
Gyroscopic
like that.
camera.
Yeah.
By the way, great views here.
That is truly. In fact, you know what? While we're here on this thing, let's just watch a lap from the masterclass himself on this angle. I mean, it just gives you an idea of the sheer speed. I mean, look at this, 270 kilometers an hour on the approach into turn 1, and that is a very short braking zone. Like you said, there is a bit of a tailwind though, so he did have to perhaps brake a bit earlier. Then we head into the Rodriguez International Horseshoe. You can see all the different flags, all the different countries represented along that wall there, and then he just gets it a little bit taily on exit again. These Super Formula cars do bite, and there is no traction control, so they do have to make sure that the fronts are planted before they ask the rears to follow. Into the West Horseshoe now. We skipped over the dog leg because it is a very straightforward corner, especially in an open wheeler. That's your West Horseshoe, and then it's a very short run to turn 6, which is arguably a very deceptive complex. It's a tight corner which then opens up into a left-hander, but you're still compressed, you're still locked up the entire way around. Into the third sector that one is there. So we're onto the super speedway, and from here it's basically just take a breath, just take a breather, nice and easy, gearing up mentally for the Le Mans chicane, big bus stop, which again, this is going to be a very high average speed. Let's have a watch at the speedo on the wheel there. You can just see it, 280 Ks, and basically no brakes. He's just flying through there. What was that? 250. So from 280 to 250, and that's supposed to be 2 corners. That is insane levels of speed. And all the while, he is just absolutely at home. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a pretty good lap, if not a new fastest lap. Look at him, he's hugging the left. He knows that the shortest way around an oval is the inside, so he's going to hug that yellow line very, very close, and it's not quite going to be a fastest lap, but that is still a masterclass lap from Matt Verstappen.
Matt Verstappen, indeed. Boy, oh boy, I enjoyed that. That's a great view as well. I'll have to figure out exactly how to replicate that. I'll keep that in mind as we go forward in this race. Let's have a race update all the way through the field. Matt McEwen does lead us away right now from Ben Groves, still holding on in P2. Gap between them 1.5 seconds at the moment. And I have to admit, Ben Groves is doing a great job. Love the beige livery as well on that SF23 car. Then it is Lewis Atkinson. He's 5 seconds back from Ben Groves, but he's got a 5-second gap to Scott Greenless. So Greenless, of course, P4 at the moment. Actually done a bit of work to get back up into the fray of things. Finished a little bit further down in the sprint race. Clearly feeling a little bit more comfortable with this Super Formula 23 car because he's got a 4-second gap over Ben McDonald, who's also got a 4-second gap over Olaf Flesch, who's having a much, much better race. He scored 2 points, I should say, in the sprint race. It didn't have a great finish there. Now he's up in P6. Much, much better result for him so far. Then it is Stone Harbour getting a little squiggly on the rear end of his car. Andre Skeppers, of course, P7 for him. Then it is Rhys Davidson, that turn 1 spin. I mean, what a disaster. We've had Lewis in the wall. We've had Rhys now spinning in the feature race. There's been a couple of incidents, but we can count them on our hands so far, and that is a positive thing. At the end of the field, it is Angus Allen. He is 8 seconds back and 35 seconds off the lead at the moment. Yeah, Rhys Davidson, what can he do from this situation?
Well, I mean, again, depending on what tyres he's on at the moment, and we don't actually know, we haven't looked, and to be fair, we're probably not going to look. Yeah, depending on how that situation plays out, he might just be trying to circulate, get his stint done on the hards or the mediums or whatever he's using. Then he'll probably box for some fresh ones, and from there, it might be all business. I mean, we've seen bigger comebacks, we've seen bigger turnarounds. He's pretty cool, calm and collected. Look at him. Nothing phases Rhys Davidson. He might do a bit of drifting or rally afterwards to cool down, but for the here and the now, he's just another day in the office, business as usual. And like you say, there's so much potential for strategy to evolve over the course of this race. We're expecting it to be just over an hour.
Oh, he's had a
He
moment.
gets a little bit squirrely out of the that horseshoe there, but yeah, look, still a long way to go. Bit early to make any too harsh of a prediction on him, and like I say, we do know he's capable of some turnarounds.
That's right, so keep an eye on the battle for P1. It's continuing as we head through the 9th lap of this race, and forever impressive is the way that these cars navigate through the Le Mans chicane. It's absolutely amazing. Fastest lap still with Matt McEwen at the moment. 5-second gap back to Lewis Atkinson. I think we're seeing quite the tyre difference between the field at the moment. Get the feeling these two are thinking rather similar strategy for this part of the early part of the race.
Yeah, that's the downside to these multiple tyre races, is that you do have quite a difference in performance. Obviously, they're not all going to go for the same tyre at the same time, and so you do see these big gaps. And it does look, it looks bad, but it's actually not. By the time all the pit stops are done and dusted, we'll have a better idea of who's benefited and who hasn't. As George has just worked out how to replicate that camera angle, so he's having a good day. What an angle, though! Again, that is.
I did not know
awesome.
this existed. I think it's brilliant.
In fact, he's even Ben's even got Liam Lawson on his helmet too. So he's definitely. I think he enjoyed his meeting. I think he enjoyed meeting up with the legend himself. And of course, like I said, Liam Lawson has actually driven these cars. It's a bit of a he does the Super Formula in Japan. I don't know if he still does. Obviously now he's
now
he's
that
in
he
F1.
is full-time in F1, but yeah, that was his lead-in through Red Bull in the Super Formula.
Yep. So he's familiar with these cars, and so there might be a bit of a maybe he messaged him for a bit of advice. He might have said, "Hey Liam, I'm doing a race in this car. Do you have any advice?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell you all my tips," and I don't know, probably not. But either way, he's sitting in P2. He's pretty comfortable at the moment. 5.4 seconds to Lewis, 1.6 to McEwen. He's just waiting to see if he's gaining or losing. He's just slightly losing out to McEwen. But no, he's in a good little no man's land. He's not under attack, and he's not quite ready to attack. But by the same token, still a long way to go. We're only just starting the 11th lap in mere seconds, George.
Exactly, and we should start to see a few pit stops at some point reasonably soon. We did say tyre life for the soft tyre was going to be about 10 laps. We may see some people actually using that information as opposed to Matt McEwen, who seems to completely disregard it. Nonetheless, so we should be able to see some pit stops soon, get an idea of who's on what tyre. This is the stage of the race, and I would like to make sure that everyone understands this. With endurance racing, at the beginning of the race, it's super tight. Everyone's right there together. Over the course of the first half of the race, you'll see all the strategies in the cars get further and further apart. So a gap like this that we see between all the cars is absolutely natural. But there we go. First pit stop it is going to be. And Andre Skeppers, he's going to jump in. He's on the hard tyres, so no wonder we see him dropping down the field. Just to conclude that thought, at the end of an endurance race, and this is where things get really exciting, that latter half, everything comes and stitches itself back together, and all the cars suddenly find themselves really, really close out on track. So expect a whole bunch of racing action towards the end of this race. But our first one to jump out, he was on the hard tyres initially for 11 laps, so reducing that hard tyre stint, now on the medium tyre for Andre Skeppers.
And interesting to note too, he didn't take any fuel. So he came in with 64 litres, he went out with 64 litres. So if he does need any fuel, he's probably going to do it at the next pit stop, which, some people do it differently. They prefer to take a little bit of fuel now and a little bit of fuel later, sort of break up that time stopped. But nope, he's gone for all, and he's just gotten a little bit wide out of there. Of course, these tyres do take a little bit to get up to operating temp. They do come out mostly pre-warmed. We don't do really... And again, tyre temperature is one of those things that you just don't really think about, but it is reflected in Gran Turismo 7. Sly Ben the Cat's the next to blink. He's come in on the soft tyres with 59 litres of fuel. So again, I actually forgot to mention this. I haven't driven the Super Formulas enough to really, talk about it, but when they do use that overboost, it does drastically change their fuel consumption.
Yes.
So that's something else that they need to factor in when they're doing their refueling and when they're doing their fuel calculations, is that the numbers that they get, so the readout on their dash tells them that they've got 12 laps of fuel, or 11.6 or whatever the number is, right? That's that number is calculated on their average fuel use. So if they're driving economically and if they're nice and gentle, that number will go up. If they're pushing, that number will go down.
Yeah.
And then if they use the overtake, then that number comes tumbling down. So again, this is a very tricky situation to get right with fuel.
This is part of the tricky thing about it. This is why we've made it harder. We said, one lap, do it around a circle, no worries. This is not a circle. These are incredibly difficult cars to manage. The boost makes it such a different factor. You add slipstream, you add all the conditions. This is why if anyone says, you just race fake cars, No. There is so much thinking that goes into planning. In fact, we did see Ben Groves on the camera counting out on his hand. He's doing the mental mathematics as we speak. By the way, he's coming to the pits, gone in from the softs onto the mediums as well. So that's 2, choosing a middle stint on the medium tyre. And then in addition to that, we will be seeing a few more pit stops. And as I said, Matt McKeown says, right, I'm only going to do +2 on the softs. Doesn't want to prove us too wrong today, but he isn't on the softs. That's 56 litres of fuel on board. 59 is what we saw Ben Groves come in on. So there's a slight difference. 1 lap, of course, won't be equal to 3 litres in this race. One thing I've seen in the chat a little bit over the course of the last few races is the liveries. I just wonder if, Nathan, you might speak to the liveries as we watch on board for the pit stop just being completed by Matt McKeown.
Yeah, so there's a couple of people asking about what the tyres, the colour of the tyres, and I'm sorry to say it's no big secret giveaway, it's just the tyres that came with the car. Like I said, the SF23 was created with mostly renewable materials and recycled rubbers and this, that and the other, and so I'm pretty sure the tyres just have something to say we're environmentally sustainable, and of course nothing says environmentally sustainable like the colour green. So sorry to all of you who thought it was some big giveaway, there is no secret writing on the tyre. Yeah, that's just unfortunately the way it is. I don't know if Super Formula races, do they have multiple compounds, or is it just this is the tyre, go racing?
That is a great question that I do not know the answer to. Of course, Formula 1, they do have the multiple compounds. In fact, they've got about 10 that they select from I believe, Pirelli at the moment, and that just depends on the kind of track that they are at the moment. Just a quick race update here. We've got Scott Greenless in a battle with Ben Groves. Ben Groves, of course, has pitted. Scott Greenless has yet to pit. These two formerly in a bit of competition earlier on. Nonetheless, Ben Groves now making a bit of a charge. He's got 1.8 seconds over Clanfever at the moment as Lewis Atkinson comes into the pits also on the soft tyres. So the top 3 choosing softs early on, that's the right call any day of the week.
Absolutely, and you would. You would. I mean, if you've qualified in the front half of the field, you want to get away, you want to maintain that track position. Whereas if you're a bit further down the order, you perhaps want to just get rid of your less than optimal tyre choices and have the good stuff up your sleeve. So yeah, that's about what we expected in Lewis, going from the softs to the hards.
Interesting.
So he's keeping those mediums up his sleeve for a sort of a Goldilocks style push at the end. Not too hard, not too soft, just right.
Just right, exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
The risk that he's running there, you see, is that if he does that, if he's gone from the softs, so all of his lines and his commitments and whatnot have been with soft tyres, so he's going to do hards. He's going to need to basically relearn. He's going to need to be a bit more gentle.
It's a big change, isn't it? You know, at the end of the day, most people would go, right, if I go from the softs to the mediums, okay, I know I'm going to get a little bit less grip. Okay.
It's a big enough difference when you go soft to medium, but to go soft to hard, that's double. So
exactly.
Yeah, look, I'm sure he's done his practice miles. I'm sure he's done his done the homework. Of course, these guys are the top in the country. You'd expect them to have, but yeah, look, again, it's just, I mean, how good do those fireworks look? Obviously, these cars super low to the ground. They're only millimeters off, and so when you're going around these high-speed oval banks, they do bottom out a bit. The consequences, some spectacular-looking sparks, which of course looks great to you and I. But you try driving through that, that's got to be distracting.
That's a little bit distracting, that is for sure. Actually, a lot of Easter eggs that can be turned into distractions rather rapidly, especially once this track gets a little bit dark, and we are heading to that late evening period now, twilight rapidly approaching as we head towards half race distance. In the feature race, remember, double points on offer. This is it. If you get the win here and you've got enough points, you are sailing to a real-world racing drive with Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. That is absolutely massive. You get second and third, not in this race, but in the overall championship points, of which this is the race to really get right. And you're in for some prizes from Next Level Racing. And we're here in the Resport Esports Centre live at Wellington.
Lewis back into the pits.
Lewis is back into the pits really early on, so he didn't want to be on those hard tyres for long, did he?
So he's throwing away the hards. He's okay. I think I see the game he's playing here. So he's banked on getting off those hards as soon as possible, just doing the bare minimum to, and of course there's no limit. You have to do at least 5 laps on the tyre. You have to do at least 10 laps or whatever. There's none of that. So he's come in, put the hards on, gone out, done 1 lap, come back in, thrown them in the bin, and now he's going to do the rest of it on medium. So essentially he's cut out a pit stop, but of course he hasn't cut out a pit stop. He still stopped twice, but now he's just got one big stint to the end, and that's definitely a gamble. I'm actually surprised that more aren't doing that.
It takes some confidence in your ability to manage the tyres, and I think Lewis is saying to himself, cool, let's go for a Hail Mary. Let's really send it in terms of the strategy, because if it works out, suddenly you could be in a really, really good position at the end of this race. But it also takes, managing that boost too. We don't know how much boost Lewis has saved, and we'll get a general idea of it towards the end of the race. For the moment, because that is a fascinating topic, we are going to see more people coming into the pit stop soon. Bear in mind the added factor of a dark track. Good luck seeing your braking zones when they do not have a proper light on them. Luckily, Daytona are a pretty well lit track at night, and look, you can start to see the flames coming out the side. This is where this game becomes truly spectacular. Let's run through the grid as it is, give you a little update on where things are at. Matt McEwen, of course, has had a pit stop already on lap 12, moved on to the medium tyre, I believe. Actually, we didn't really get a good look at it on the screen, so we're not 100% sure which tyre he's on now. Matt McEwen, 5-second gap now to Crimson. So it's Ben McDonald in P2 at the moment, though as I understand it, he has yet to come into the pits. So he is slightly out of position right now. Then it is Scotty Ray in P3, also yet to pit. So both of these two, they are battling on track. There may even be an overtake move here by Scott Greenless into the Le Mans chicane. No, not this time, but he'll still be running the slipstream. Unless that happens.
No.
Oh, big accident! And that is Crimson in the wall. He's got it all wrong at the Le Mans chicane. And the cars do bounce through there, Nathan, and it looks like that has bounced. He's gone very, very deep into the apex, and the cars said absolutely not when he's put the power down with no traction control on.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch exactly what that was, whether he bumped or whether he just got it wrong, because there's a lot of ways you can set up the car into these corners, obviously with the steering and with the braking, with the throttling. Not quite sure what he got wrong there, but he got something wrong, and he got punished for it, but... yeah, that's going to really hurt. I imagine he's got a fair bit of damage on there for at least the time being. We are running the light damage model, so it does magically repair itself after a while. But in such a high downforce, high commitment car, that is going to be a massive blow. He's lost 5 seconds to Scotty, and now he's potentially under attack from Ben Groves.
Here we go. So it is going to be the Bens versing each other. Of course, Ben McDonald out in front, P3 at the moment, still has to pit. And then, of course, Ben Groves now in P4, so he has pitted, so he is in relative position right now. McEwen, I think he has pitted. I just want to double check. We did see him go into the pits. Yes, we did. Then it is Reese Davidson in P5 after that accident in lap 1. These two now going at it, the Bens. Battling now out on track. Lovely to see that. And of course, Clan Fever, Olive Fresh still in P6. A few pit stops on their way, I'm sure, as we head through half race distance. Then it is Andres Skeppers in the... I'm going to call this the Wario livery now, because every time I see this car, the colours are so bright and vivid. Reminds me of Wario or Mario, whatever it ends up being. The monster colours, I think it is. There's some sort of alternative version. I don't know. I'm not that good at pop culture. Then it is Lewis Atkinson in P8, followed by Angus Allen, who is 6.5 seconds off the pace there, 43 behind our race leader at the moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your race order as it stands right now. And this man now has a 10-second gap over Scott Greenless. Out of position, of course, but still running strong. And that fastest lap may hold a little bit longer than we expect. That's a moment. Wow.
Just the slightest of... In fact, I was going to make the point too. It looks like it's mostly reverted now, but that wind did pick up for a brief while there. So it looks like it's backed off a little bit, but that is still a pretty good headwind into turn 1. So maybe that was what got him caught up. Just that slight... Again, you don't really think about wind. There's a lot of things you think about when you're racing a car. The wind isn't one of them. So, maybe just a possible caught him by surprise. And you notice too, Olaf just taking a quick swig of his drink in between pit stops. Because again, the pit stops in GT are completely automated. All he has to do is point it into the lane, and they do the rest.
Well, this is the thing as well. There is no break around this track. Even when you're on the straights, I'm doing the quote fingers right now, the straights, you're not going straight, you're going slightly sideways, and there's tactics and strategies on how you place the car and how much tyre you're actually using through those banked corners as you navigate through them. So you do not have a break. So the only break these guys are going to get is 2 times through this long race. Run time so far, 27 minutes. We've only just gone through half race distance, so a long way still to go in this final feature race. And that sunset, beautiful. And it's going to be absolutely pitch black by the time we finish this race.
Yeah, I've just made an interesting observation there, George, because Daytona, this track, was one of my favourite tracks to sort of solo, do like money grinds and stuff. Not that it was an effective money grind, but I enjoy racing here. There's a Group 3 race that starts off in the day and it progresses to the night. Love it. But one of the problems with this game, and in particular Daytona, that at least used to happen, was that you had this big frame rate issue in those sort of twilight hours. The frame rate started to sort of get a bit choppy, but I'm not noticing that at the moment, so I'm wondering if either they've fixed it, or maybe that's why we've decided to go cloudy. Maybe the clouds save the frame rate for some reason. It's I'm not entirely sure, but it's just certainly, I just realised now, I'm like, hang on a minute, I thought, when I used to play it, it would get all choppy and it would get all, annoying, which certainly isn't what you want in a live finals, but for the most part, it looks pretty smooth here.
I think Polyphony's made a lot of improvements to the GT7 over time. Lots of physics and simulation changes, some getting caught out with that, some leagues getting caught out by that as well. We've encountered our fair share of that. There's another patch coming in about a week's time as well for Gran Turismo 7, so a few more cars. That is a penalty for our race leader. He's just got it wrong with the Le Mans chicane. It's so easy to do it. You saw on board there. I mean, it looks valid, but it's not.
Yeah, he definitely got close. I did think that was a bit borderline. So, yeah, look, hey, he's certainly, of all the people that can afford to lose a bit of time, I think Matt McEwen is that guy. There's Scotty also doing the business. These guys are just so cool and collected, eh? No one's really sweating. No one's really tense. Everyone's just nice and... I mean, look at his shoulders. He's just nice and loose, nice and flowy, just doing what needs to be done. Yeah, these guys are really... And actually, the other thing
my
too,
goodness. Oh, my goodness.
That had the potential to go really wrong, didn't it?
Scott, well done for catching that. That's super, super impressive stuff.
Now,
well done.
The other interesting thing about... Because we've had a few people asking about the telemetry data and looking at the tyres and all that sort of stuff. You can actually look at the tyres and see the graining and the wear and the condition, basically, of those tyres. So, you can sort of get an idea of who's running fresh tyres and who's running not fresh tyres. Of course, Scotty is not fresh tyres, so that'll be interesting. Whereas Sly Ben the Cat, Ben Groves, on the contrast, isn't nearly as bad, so he's going to catch up, and it looks like he's pretty much got a free move done here.
It's going to be pretty easy once he does get past, because he will have a big side draft, but as you can see, the top speed not really happening too much. He might be lifting off the throttle, doesn't want to over-rev the car. We had Matt McEwen talking about this, of course, early on. If you do get that slipstream, if you do use the boost button, you're going to be using an awful lot more fuel. That's a nice overtake, cleanly done by Ben Groves on Scott. And so Scott, unfortunately, will now move down into P3 in this race. Ben Groves moves up into his provisional position, back into his provisional position of P2 in this race. 15 seconds the gap, though. Just shows how quick Matt McEwen is. He's been so consistent today.
Now that's a good point too. It would actually be probably good to go through the field and have a look at the lights above their halo. Now the reason I say that is because the amount of boost that they have left is represented by they've got green lights on above their halo, and if they're below a certain point, those lights will be red.
Okay, so let's go through. We'll start with our race leader.
So Matthew McEwen, he's still got green light on his halo, so he's still got plenty according to the game. Next up, what do we got? Sly Ben. He's got green, all right, as he also gets a bit out of shape, but he's still got boost, so that's all good. Crimson still got boost. We got Big Head Ted, also still got boost. Okay.
Battle here.
So what we're getting at here is that they haven't all used their boost. I don't really think there's anybody who's completely depleted it and now they're stuck without any speed gain. But by the same token, it's like you say, it is a resource. It is a limited resource, and it's just one of those things. These guys are managing it almost perfectly. In fact, you'd almost wonder if Lewis would use just a little bit just to catch up there, but he might well have. It's it certainly adds a whole new dynamic, and certainly not one that I would never know when to use my boost. I'd either use it way the heck too early, or I'd finish the race and still have 3/4.
You and me both. We'd be at the end of lap 1 with a red halo, 100%, because we'd been battling. We go, oh, he's using it, I better use it, etc. And this is part of that psychological pressure. It's not just the psychological pressure of where you're placing the car, behind, on the inside, on the outside line. Lewis is going to get a real good shot here to the Le Mans chicane. Bit of a defensive move by Stone Harbour. So Andre Skepper's just trying to hold off Lewis for now. You can see that spit of flame. This is my favourite graphical feature, as we do see Ben McDonald in GD Crimson. He is now in the pits on his medium tyres, 24 litres of fuel. So this is going to be a big refuelling stop for him. Still 12 laps to go in this race. Don't worry, it's not 22 laps. My brain will eventually do math correct. But yeah, it is one of those tricky things. You're not only dealing with that racing pressure, you're also dealing with the pressure of who is using boost, when are they using it, how much are they using. It's such a tactical thing. Let's continue through the field, see who's on what as this battle does cool down ever so slightly. Scotty Greenless is now on green, so he's absolutely fine on that. Let's just check Ben McDonald really quickly. He's out of the pits and actually now in a battle. Oh, close one. He'll have fresher tyres. It'll touch the rear there from Scott, but nothing untoward has happened as a result of it. Here's our first. Olaf Flesh has unfortunately run out of boost in this race.
Now, again, I'd need to fact check that one, and because I'm pretty sure red means you've got a certain I think if you've completely
under 25%,
something like that. I think if you've completely depleted your boost, it just goes out. Like there is no
okay,
low.
yeah,
I think. But again, need
yes,
to fact
red
check
is
me
low.
on that
You're
one.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. So that just means that he's chewed through a fair bit of it. Doesn't mean that he's necessarily out, but like you say, George, he's the only one, and he's currently sitting in 8th. So perhaps a bit of a tactical blunder there as we see Angus coming out of the pits, and in fact, McEwen's about to probably catch him. So McEwen's got the better part of a lap on some of the field, mate.
That's right, but Matt McEwen, of course, needs to come in for one more pit stop in this race at the very least. So we believe he's used the soft tyre and I think the medium tyre at the moment, so he'll have the hard tyre left. Can he do what he did at Catalonia? Extend on those slicker tyre compounds all the way and just do that one lap at the end? Well, we've got 10 laps, technically 9, to find out whether or not he does do that. That's Rhys Davidson now in the pits, 20 litres of fuel on his car, a little bit less than what we saw just before. Medium tyres at the moment, we'll keep an eye and see if he's going to be throwing on a soft set. I think he was one that started on the hard tyre. We'll double check. This choice will determine it. Yep. Yes, he did. Started on the hard tyre, goes onto the soft now. So this last soft stint is going to be really, really exciting for these guys. For the first time in this race, Rhys Davidson's going to feel like he's actually got grip in this Super Formula car.
Yeah, definitely the time for the turnaround comes out now. So certainly, and again, like you say, such a long race. There are some pretty big gaps, but we are still yet to see the sort of the final stops play out, and of course that does bunch things up. Not to say that they'll all become line and stern again, but the gaps certainly aren't quite that dominant. McEwen's good. I don't think he's quite that good though. But yeah, now watching all of this, dude, it does remind me not Matt McEwen, goodness, Matt Smith, Monkey Matt. He ran a Super Formula series many, many years ago, back when the first ever Super Formula cars were first added to the game. Super Formula New Zealand, it was called. And he ran that series for 2 or 3 seasons, I think. And, mate, that was such a cool... He made a point of picking tracks that were very against the grain, unorthodox. St. Croix, Sardinia, you know, the places that you sort of look at and you think, really? Open wheelers? But... yeah, no, dude, that was fond memories that time. It was actually my introduction to New Zealand online sim racing, to be fair, because prior to that, I'd only ever done daily races or the manufacturer series, you know, the World Series stuff, of which was pretty much just glorified daily races back then. I remember one of the manufacturer series races being 7 laps around Bathurst. 7. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to find one that's less than like 20 laps. So. Anyway, who we got here? We got Big Hit Ted versus Crimson. Ted's going to go up the inside. Massive move. But he gets it done. Wow, that was brave. He was a bit confident in his abilities there.
Well, this is what we were saying. Big Ed Ted's just come out on fresh, soft tyres. He's going to have the grip to do it, and might as well take the opportunities. And
he's
GG
not
Crimson.
Yeah.
Didn't let him have it, but there was a gap there.
He's not going to want to dilly dally either, because obviously he wants to make a. He's picked those soft tyres for a reason, right? And that reason is not sitting behind other cars.
Exactly.
So he's definitely going to want to. Definitely going to want to sort that one out and make short work of the people. Again, he can't do it completely reckless abandon, but certainly in that instance, that was one of the more aggressive manoeuvres. Yeah, wow. Good job, Ted.
I mean, yeah, Ted has been showing us these big sends of his have been in some ways worth it, in some ways not worth it. Certainly Catalonia didn't go his way. Wow, sorry. Just the way the cars maneuver through there. Every time I see it, I just get a little bit frightened about what is going to end up happening. We did see, I believe it was actually Crimson who went into the wall at the exit when he was in that battle. So it was just terrifying when that car does end up snapping on you. But yeah, Reese would be stoked at the moment. Go, cool, I've got full grip, I can absolutely send it. Let's go racing. Stone Harbour now into the pits. Andre Schepper's now in the pits on the medium tyres. Very low fuel at this stage, so he will want a bunch of fuel added to that car. We are now on the 25th lap of this race. That means the NZERS 2024 Season 2 The grand finals here in Wellington are now coming to a close. It is dark out there. Keep an eye on those halos. The amount of boost at the end of this race is going to be absolutely critical. How much fuel will Andre be using? A number of people at the end of this race will still need to pit. And it's on the soft tyres at the end. So soft tyres at the end, chosen by those who've qualified a little bit further down this race.
Yeah, look, he'll be wanting to do the same thing that Ted was doing, which is catching up to those guys and making very short work of them. Like you say, there are still a handful of pit stops to get done, so don't think it's necessarily over yet, folks. He's yeah, look, 5.8 seconds to Clan Fever. I anticipate that gap's going to come down very, very quickly. And even now, look at that, 5.3, 5.2. So he's definitely got the pace advantage. But the trade-off is, I mean, like you say, we were watching Matthew McEwen a few laps ago. Just how easily you can cop a penalty. And of course, one penalty might not hurt too much, but then, 2 or 3 or more, by the end of it, you've lost an entire second's worth of pace. So, yeah, look, still a fair bit to go. You see Angus GTR going blue sector, so that means that's his personal best. It's not a purple sector, he's not faster than anyone, but it is faster than he was, so it's a personal best. Yeah, again, still got to wait for all those pits to sort of really sort themselves out before we can make any definitive claims on who's dominant and who's not. Of course, one of the big ones who's still yet to pit is the big man himself.
This is going to be the key thing. We're heading to the end of this race now. Matt's going to have to come into the pits at least one more time. Luckily, there's no real pit crew involved in this, so it will be a nice efficient pit stop, so don't have to worry about that. It's just going to be whether or not he is able to manage the tyres as a pit stop. But 18.5 seconds at this point, that is a great gap to have. Matt has managed this race beautifully as we expected him to do, and unfortunately for Ben Groves, he's not really been able to bring that challenge to this GT World Series multi-GT World Series finalist in Matthew McEwen, now known as Matthew the Verstappen McEwen, I think, based on Nathan's nicknaming of this man right here. But we shall see. There's still a lot to play out, but not a lot of time left for it to really play out in.
You're certainly right. I wonder if Red Bull are watching. They're going to offer him a Red Bull Junior program. You never know. You never know. Crazier things have happened. But yeah, look, we're fully under lights now. The sun's gone. We are completely dark. We're under lights. There was a few concerns raised initially about, are you sure you want to do a night race with Super Formula cars, which notably don't have headlights? But of course, like you say, mate, Daytona does a very, very good job of illuminating. As we're watching Scotty go for a move on Lewis, he's going to look at the inside. He's going to be denied. But of course, that turn one corner, he got very close to that invisible wall, I'm sure. Oh, that was crazy committed. And in fact, I think Ted's going to try and capitalise on that too, because Lewis is now vulnerable. Ted's going to try and go around the outside, but of course he doesn't quite have it. You see the bird's eye view there of the 4 cars, because of course, not only is it Scotty versus Lewis, but Ted's also involved, and Crimson stands to gain if any of these guys get it wrong. So how much more is there to do as we look? Oh, there might have been a bit of contact there. That was a fair bump from Big Head Ted from Reese. I think he knows that he's not going to try any malicious... oh, no, is there a second one? Was that another bump, or did he just get really close?
Tricky thing here for Reese, he's on such a fast tyre through the infield. When you're this close, it's so hard to judge where the other person's tyres are at, where they're going to end up braking. They're dealing with dirty air as well, different driving styles. All comes into play. Is there going to be a bit of working together here? Yes, there is. Big Head Ted is going to work with Lewis Atkinson to try and catch up to Scotty Ray. They might even work together to try and catch up to Ben Groves. Our leader, Matt McEwen, now in on 1 litre of fuel. He is smelling the oily rag that was in his fuel tank. Now he's going to be well on his way to a victory here. Sligo the Cat actually going to take the lead provisionally in this, but I believe he also come in for a final pit stop in this race.
Yeah, just watching McEwen, how much fuel he took on board. He took no more than was necessary. So, and again, he's calculated and he's worked out the risk, and we're going to watch 3 cars go into turn 1. In fact, 4 cars, because I think Crimson's trying to make his presence known as well.
It's a 4-way battle.
4-way fight for position 3. How good.
Red light for Lewis as well, so he's low on boost now in that black SF23 car. And this is a great battle. Reese Davidson is in P5, and then it is Ben McDonald. So Ben McDonald versus Lewis Atkinson versus Reese Davidson versus one of our younger competitors, Scott Greenless. This is a great fight, and this is the battle for the final podium step. At the moment, provisionally, of course, we've got Ben Groves who needs to pit 2. That's an outside line run for Reese Davidson, and he's actually got it done on Lewis Atkinson, and that red light is a concern for Lewis.
Yeah, again, it really depends on how you've been using the boost, because you can use it offensively or you can use it defensively. I think Lewis might well have been using it a bit defensively, especially in those latter laps. But yeah, it looks like he joins Clan Fever at the Red Light Club. I'm not sure if there are any other members at the moment, but we're not going to focus on that right now, because this action is where it's at here at Daytona. This is the battle for the podium spot, and any one of these 4 drivers could get it. This is closer than the FIA races, George.
This is
closer
excellent.
than anything the World Series has put on, but at the moment it looks like advantage Scotty. So Scotty's out in front. He's got the 2/10 gap. 2/10. It's really nothing.
They're battling Crimson and Lewis.
But it looks like-
it's just so hard to track, because now we've got 2 by 2.
Are they gonna go
They're
3
3
wide?
by 3. They're nearly 4 by 4 as they head down the straight across the checkered flag line into turn 1 we go. And it is to Reese Davidson ahead at the moment. Little touch from behind from Scotty Ray. Lewis Atkinson's been shoved out wide. Does keep it off the gravel, which is excellent work by him, and Crimson still holding onto the P4 position here. Looks like Scotty Ray's going to get edged out there by Lewis as well. So through the apex, Lewis runs very deep into that part of the track. Scotty can't hold on, falls back into P5, and now he's under pressure from Crimson. This battle is something else.
Yeah, it looked like Scotty gave Ted a bit of a push into turn 1, sort of nudged him a bit wide, but of course that didn't really hinder him too much. However, it just sort of shows the aggression that these guys, and of course the stewards are in the room. They are going to slap anybody that gets a bit...
Oh, Ben
Crimson!
McDonald, be careful.
No, Ben McDonald, he gets it all out of shape, and that's unfortunately put him out of this battle pack for the time being, but he only gets a penalty. Oh, that's brutal from Gran Turismo. But it does give us bird's eye view of these 3 from a bit of an outsider's perspective. But man, what a simple mistake, just a minor mistake with disproportionate consequences for Ben McDonald, and again Scotty Ray.
That's going to be a penalty
That
as well,
is definitely
Nathan.
going to be a penalty. That's going to be half a second or more, probably more like 1 second. There you go, 1 second on your sheet. So now Ted versus Lewis. We've had this battle pack chopped in half, basically. And with 3 laps to go, yeah, that's going to... In fact, Scotty's going to take the chance to do his last pit stop. So that's really smart. He's turned that into a less than a positive. Obviously, it's still a negative, but he's turned it around and he said, you know what, I was planning to pit anyway. So
Exactly.
that's the only way you can really recover that sort of thing. And again, like you say, there are a couple of drivers still yet to make that last stop. But right here, right now, Ted versus Lewis, we've got, what, a second at the moment. It was quite the slow horseshoe. I wonder what happened there. In fact, Lewis might be completely out of boost by this point. Yeah. So we got, yeah, they're both on the red.
Both on the red.
So they're both, and again, you'd be mad not to use all of it, right? So just because we're 3 laps away, you know, if they're using a little bit there, a little bit there, we do still have time for them to use that, but you don't want to finish the race and have too much. And there
Ben
goes Ben.
Groves has absolutely spun out on the exit of the Le Mans chicane. And that is a disaster for the young man late in this race. With 3 laps to go, Matt McEwen will come soaring around the upper part of the circuit, the outlap there. Oh, that is a disaster for the young man. Will he take this opportunity to pit? No, he's just going to keep his foot in for now. He's got a 23-second gap over Reese Davidson. That's actually come down a lot given the spin. Oh, that is unlucky for that man. He's going to be absolutely gutted with that.
That is a heartbreaker for Ben Groves. That was the one shot that he had to deny Matthew McEwen a race win, and again, double points. So that is going to be all the more detrimental to his title hopes, which, oh mate, all you can do is shake your head. But unfortunately, Matt McEwen looks like he's going to take this one because Ben's still got a pit, and Ted is about 18 seconds down the road. But never say never.
Never say never. Anything can happen, especially at a track like this where it's so easy to spin these cars around. TC0 and an SF23 car at a place that has camber and curbs galore. Yeah, anything can literally happen, but we are on lap 31. So the chips are certainly, or the dice are certainly falling in a rather predictable direction right now. We have been wrong before. That gap is coming down between Ben Groves and Reese Davidson to P3, may even be on. This has been a good one for Reese Davidson. I mean, talk about the fight back, but he's got Lewis behind him, he's got Crimson. And let's just see, has Crimson got a rather green, no, he's on the red too. So all of these guys have been battling, they've just been hitting that boost button like it's oxygen.
Well, over the course of 30 laps, I don't think that's too reckless of a thing. And mentioning in the chat too, good drive from Ted here on the alternate strat. So it's easy to forget that he actually ran a bit of a different strat to what everyone else was sort of going for. So we see Ben there now in the pit, so he's going to chuck on. What's he got left? The softs.
I believe he's got the hard tyres.
Oh, he's got the hards. Okay,
it'll be a splash and dash with hard tyres
that's going to
round out.
Corner.
Usually the harder compounds are used for the least amount of time possible. We will double check, but I don't imagine they'll be using the softs for only one lap.
No, okay, well, that does make things a bit more, unfortunate for him. And in fact, I don't even think he took any fuel there. So he's going to run.
Where is he going to come out, though? Where is Rhys Davidson? So on the exit, he's only just ahead. But hold on, Rhys Davidson's got soft compound tyres. And they were hards, weren't they?
That was definitely hards. Now, this is the thing, though. What does Ben have that Rhys doesn't? Overboost.
Exactly.
So this is where that sort of strategy comes into play. Has he saved himself enough boost to be able to keep ahead of Ted? And of course, Ted won't take too kindly to that. He wants to win. He wants the spot. He wants it now. Thank you very much. But you can't argue from an extra, whatever the boost is, 60 horsepower, 50 horsepower. It's not a small number. So that'll be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next.
Remember that Ben Groves and Rhys Davidson are equal on points right now.
Oh, that's even better.
Apiece, so this is even better. There's the move. Rhys Davidson on the outside line. He's got no boost. Ben Groves has the boost, and he'll actually have to concede the position into the Le Mans chicane. Has Rhys Davidson gone a little bit too deep? Let's see. Will there be a penalty for that one? We didn't catch it on camera. Did hear the screeching tyres, but I think Rhys Davidson was right on the pixel edge, the bleeding edge of that corner. He's got it all right. And P2 for Rhys Davidson at moves. Oh, it's actually Ben Groves that got the penalty. No. The hard tyres, he hasn't adjusted. Bigger Ted actually hasn't done his last pit stop.
Ted ran out of fuel.
He ran out of fuel. You're absolutely right.
Oh,
hold on. So we've got to count this back. So Crimson is in. He needed to do a pit stop. We know that. He's going to go onto the hard compound tyres now. If there is no tyre change from Rhys Davidson, I mean, he's just got it all wrong with the fuel. He's got it all wrong with the fuel.
Let's have a look. No, okay, so maybe he did need to put hards
on. He might have needed the tyres as well. I mean, maybe this explains it. What this does is it elevates Lewis Atkinson up into the top spot.
Yep, Ted on the hards. So so that wasn't a
fuel.
Wasn't a tactical blunder.
Wasn't a tactical blunder. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually still in P4, but he's a long way back from these top three.
Meanwhile, Lewis,
and critically, Ben Groves ahead of Rhys Davidson. So that puts Ben Groves up into the potential P3 spot for the championship points. It puts Lewis Atkinson into P2. How exciting is this? But he's got a little bit of a battle on here, and this is actually critical because if Ben Groves finishes ahead of him, he's going to finish in the second place in this championship. It is on. It is on, Nathan.
Wow, come on, Lewis. 1 lap to go, mate. You only got one complex. I mean, look at that. Half a second is the game. Neither of these guys are going to want to cop a penalty. Oh, no. Oh, that's a penalty for Ben. That has got to be a penalty for Ben. He was fully on the grass for that one. So, yep, there you go. I think that's done the story for us. But in the meantime, it looks like we've got...
Lewis is going rather slow, though. So the penalty's served, but look at the overspeed that was there.
Did they both get a penalty?
I wonder if Lewis is in a bit of trouble. I don't think Lewis got a penalty. He might have, but...
I have no idea, but either way, there's your top three, folks.
Here's your top three.
McEwen takes the win. We completely missed it because he's just so far ahead.
It all happens so quickly on a lap like this.
21.8 seconds, and then followed by Lewis, who takes that second spot. Ben Groves third place, so he's won the Rhys versus Ben the bout.
Yeah, so I would like to make a comment here, ladies and gentlemen, that when the commentators have no longer breath or words, the racing action must have been pretty exciting, and I think we can agree that it was. We will get the final tally and the final points which are being calculated right now. We think we've got the order right, which is basically the finishing order for this feature race as it is right now. We will double check that. We will get the numbers confirmed. We're getting a live update from our race admins at the moment. What a fantastic race, Nathan. There was some major mistakes in that. There was some real moves, some great overtakes, and here we are, the end of NZERS at the final part of the feature race. Matt McEwen has clearly taken it, and he will be taking home the grand prize. He's won the championship. We'll be talking to him soon. We're also going to have to figure out who else we're talking to. Guarantee that it'll be Lewis Atkinson in their P2. Question is going to be, who is going to be there in P3?
Now, while we have a second too, let's quickly go through the field before we lose it out, because let's see who used how much boost. I see Ben's Halo is out. He didn't have any boost left. Neither did Ted. Just quickly, before we lose the...
Okay.
Lewis had a little
Lewis
bit
had a
left
little bit
over.
left. Yep.
Everyone else pretty much, Scotty had some. All used it. Clan, yep.
Everyone else used it.
So
only
Lewis
two.
still had something in the tank.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is phenomenal. And again, it's a limited resource. You could only use it so much. But like, wow. That was awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to digest the end results of what's been a fantastic NZERS Season 2, and we will talk to you guys in a few moments' time. We're going to get the results up, the final results for the feature race on your screen right now. This is where things stand. Points, of course, are being calculated in the background. We think we have a final tally. But let's talk through our feature race first. Super Formulas, wow, awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely loved it.
Yep.
Matt McEwen,
Yep.
21 seconds ahead.
21 seconds ahead, but I want to raise an interesting point to you there. He did not get the fastest lap. Fastest lap was denied by Stone Harbour.
And that is a really fast lap. Look at it, it's nearly
That
half
wasn't
a second.
There
maybe.
wasn't a small gap either. So I mean, look, if you're not going to win the race, the second best thing is to take fastest lap. That's how you make a statement. That's how you say, yeah, I'm fast. You know, my race might not have gone my way, but I'm fast. McEwen leads Lewis, leads Ben, leads Reese, leads Scotty, and that's just your top 5. Those were just the guys that were arguing for top 5. I mean,
yeah, genuinely unbelievable. And then, of course, we had the battle. We had Stone Harbour in there. We had Scotty Ray in there. We had Big Head 10 and Lewis. 4-way battle all the way through. It's absolutely unbelievable.
And
kind
how
of
good
battle.
was that 4-way battle too? I mean, the way they were so in close quarters. It wasn't just line and stern. They were battling. They were fighting. They were dive bombing. And then one got taken out of the mix, then another got taken out of the mix. We were left with 2 survivors, basically. And then,
the superstitious among us might have noticed that as we moved the onboard camera up the battle, one of them just kept on peeling off the rear end of that battle. No coincidence there at all, ladies and gentlemen. Just FYI, for those of you who are suspicious of the commentator's curse, I don't believe that was an example of it. But they were 3 wide into turn 1. They had the 4th coming in there too, 2 by 2, literally coming into that first corner. It was really scary. There was actually a little bit of working together too, which I like to see in the Super Formula class.
there was that bit of collaboration. And like I said, a lot of these guys are friends. They do get along outside of just Gran Turismo. And, you know, they share memes on Discord and whatnot. So when the opportunity arises and there is a bit of mutual benefit there, they are open to that. So it's awesome to see. And again, it's just one of those things that you don't get that in the World Series. You don't get that in those really, really big high-level events because everyone's so sweaty and so serious. And then you come to one of these events and it's you see collaboration, you see working, you see that sort of camaraderie outside of, I mean, obviously they're racing hard.
Yeah.
There's some pretty awesome prizes on the line. But yeah,
I think it also a testament to the way that NZERS has set up these races as well. They've set it up to create a situation where it's beneficial to work together, and that's important too.
Absolutely.
You know, so ladies and gentlemen, we have some numbers for you. We have some numbers to announce based on what we can see here. Some of you out there in Wellington may have already seen this. So let's quickly jump to our commentator screen. Your final results coming up in a few moments' time. And my hair has just gone completely crazy. And as a result of that feature race with me going, oh no, and we were just doing all the, we were going side by side and the hand movements and the gestures were all there. It's been fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, right, it is time for us to announce what we can see on our live final scoring sheet. Matt McEwen. Matthew Verstappen, he's taken it. He's got 42 points, 42 championship points. The victory is his. The real-world racing drive with Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand belongs to Matthew McEwen. And he is our 2024 Season 2 champion here at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. What a season. Back to back. First back-to-back racer. He got qualifying pole, won the sprint, won the feature.
Yep.
I mean, took the trifecta, add a cherry on top, here's the championship.
You just don't get much more dominant than that. And even then, the one opportunity that someone else had to deny him dominance in Ben Groves in those closing laps, and he just made the most unfortunate of mistakes with the most dire of consequences. So, I mean, again, you can't shake the man for his skill. You can't shake the man for his pace. And, he doesn't make mistakes, which that's always been a pretty important part of racing, isn't it, George?
It certainly is, and the consistency throughout the season as well. He's had those battles up there in the online season too, which has been really exciting to watch. But at the end of the day, he's usually come out on top, barring a few small mistakes. We saw that at Red Bull Ring with Matt McEwen. We'll talk to him about some of those mistakes and his mindset going forward. We know that he likes to practice a lot. I'm saying that slightly sarcastically, of course, given the interviews we've had with him throughout the season, but he's just got so much raw talent. He's shown that this season. Congratulations to Matt McEwen. Right, next point on the list here. Okay, I'm going to let you announce this one because it is someone who you're rather familiar with.
Lewis Atkinson. Speaking of back-to-backs, back-to-back runner-up in the 2024 NZERS series. But, so he's concluding that one with 31 points, which makes him second place. And, again, talk about a variety of fates. He had good, bad, ugly, all his way, crashing into the pit lane. Far out.
There is something about watching Lewis Atkinson go racing where it is so much like a roller coaster. He's got such high peaks and occasionally some very, very low lows. But overall, it seems to balance out some really amazing results. And this is another example of that, where he's had that mixed season. Online season didn't always go his way. It is just one of those things. Then in the live finals here, I mean, he's really brought out a lot of composure, especially in that sprint race. I mean, that's just an astonishing way to get back up into the podium positions, set himself up for this race too.
Yeah, well, again, that's one of the hallmarks of being a good Gran Turismo racer. It's not just about the Group 3. Obviously, Group 3 is the hero class, but it's not the only. We've had road cars today. We've had Group 3. We've had open wheelers, and again, we talked earlier about how it's a bit of a niche, but it does have its fans. And again, that is just. I mean, we're still out of breath. That's how good that racing was, and we really hope you guys enjoyed it too.
Yep. So Lewis Atkinson. He's got 31 championship points. That puts him second in the championship. So he'll be taking home a GT Light cockpit, I believe it is, from Next Level Racing. So big thanks to Next Level Racing for providing that prize. Now we get to talk about third place. This is the last of the top prize slots, last of the podium, of course. Now, it was pretty close, I have to admit.
Very close.
Very, very close. And in fact, fourth to fifth as well. Very, very close. In fact, most of the field. Pretty close, because let's be honest, all 9 drivers who've been able to arrive here at the Wellington Finals have done a fantastic job and providing some of the best racing I've seen this year, and that is saying quite a bit. So congratulations to everyone. Third place for the New Zealand Esports Racing Series Season 2 is going to go to Ben Groves. Congratulations, 26 points. And that's a podium.
Absolutely well-deserved too. And speaking of Ben Groves...
Speaking of Ben Groves, we need to give him a proper microphone.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Last time we weren't able to hear you as quite as well as we wanted to. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you a headset. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, you might still be able to hear me, but you know what? I'm just going to let Nathan take over for this section.
Well, I'll give you the headset eventually. But, we'll talk to Ben a bit first, mate. Ben, well done. That was a phenomenal race in the Super Formula. See, look, even George has got to give you a bit of an applaud, mate. Just give us a quick rundown of sort of how that went for you, because, I mean, there's just so much to unpack from that. And obviously, we're not going to do some big hour-long segment unpacking all the happenings of the race, but just give us a quick rundown of how that sort of went in a nutshell.
Well, to start off with, it was pretty useless because I put the medium to start, and I think I unlogged and logged back into the race, and it reset my car, so I started on the softs, which I didn't mean to do, but then I kept on with McEwen. I actually had a go with him, which was a bit, I wasn't planning on doing it, but then I think he made a mistake midway through the lap, so I just got a really good run through the bus stop and everything. But then, I had that spin. I think I beached it on the curb. I don't know if you can, but something happened on the curb, at the final curb at the bus stop, and then I spun round. I still stayed ahead of Lewis. Just Big ET got me, but he pitted, and then the final bus stop I just went all in because I had nothing to lose. I didn't have enough OTS because I saw Lewis next to me with a bit more, so I just went, alright, I'm just going to go for it, and I overshot it. So
that's insane. And for the game to put you on the tyres that you didn't mean
it
to,
was a bit of
that would have forced a bit of a tactical reset as far as what you were planning, but I mean, you made it work.
Yeah.
Certainly
at
made
least
it work.
At least it wasn't a very technical circuit, especially with the back section, because I spent counting with my fingers the laps that I needed for fuel. So
Oh, I'll give
I
George
see.
the headset. He's got some questions.
Well, I just wanted to say we did catch you on camera doing the 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4,
I
5.
just wanted to double check, and I overfueled it, but it was better
Yeah.
over than under. Cause
Always better to overfuel it. We saw a few on 0 liters at the end of the race as
Yeah.
well. Some of those that you were racing. There were some pretty intense battles throughout the race, not just with McEwen, but you also found yourself in the quieter areas.
Mm.
And then you get the pit stops as well. 2 pit stops to do throughout this race. There's a little bit of time to think
Yeah.
and regather yourself.
Yeah.
So what's going through your mind during those pit stops?
Well, I thought McEwen was on the hards when I was trying to have a go with him, but then he pulled away and then he pitted, but he didn't refuel on the first stop, which I thought was a bit weird because I went to mediums for my stop and I refueled to go to the end because I wanted to run the mediums as long as I could because I knew I'd lose. I wanted to not be able to lose any time refueling on the final stop, which I didn't lose, but then I lost the position anyway. So, what else happened? I also had a few. I can't even remember what happened. It was quite a long race.
It'll take a little while for it to all sort of
feed
feed
back
back in.
Yeah. And like I said, we're not going to do a big digestion segment because it was a phenomenal race and you scored yourself some pretty nice prizes, so you got to be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. 28th of the first round, and then third. So I think it's pretty good.
Name a better comeback story. All right, well that's Ben Groves, and no, you got another question.
I've got another question because I do want to call attention to the fact that Ben, you started off in Division 2.
Yeah.
You won your races. You've clearly got some talent, skill behind you. Is sim racing something you're looking to continue to do in your future as a hobby? Are you interested in the motorsports area? What's the future? Because you've accelerated through this season, and to come in 3rd position overall is a great achievement in amongst such other talent as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing a bit of real racing. I've done quite a few autocrosses with the Queenstown Car Club against Ted Brentzel. He was racing in the series for a bit, then his wheel blew up, I think. So, yeah, I've been doing a bit of that stuff, and then I've just bought myself a race car, which I'm quite happy about. I've been working at Game Over, racing karts.
Wow.
Well, working. So I've bought myself a car, which I'm not too sure how much I'm going to be able to do. It's quite expensive. I've already found, and I haven't even driven it yet. So, yeah, and... Well, what was I going to say? Oh, I've forgotten already. But, yeah.
Excellent. I think we'll let you go, mate.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're both going to shake your hand. Congratulations on the 3rd position.
Thank
You're going to
you.
enjoy some great prizes.
Yeah.
Keep it going, and you've really done well this time. So
Cool.
congratulations.
Yeah.
You are 3rd place in Season 2, 2024 for the New Zealand Esports Racing Series.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers. Now we've got a trade. Hold on.
Wait, oh, hang on a minute.
You red, I'm blue. Something like that. I don't think it matters, does it? Really?
At least they can hear him this time. So that's always
That's a good
always
point.
a benefit. But yeah, look, Ben Groves, one of the real young up and comers, and I mean he's so young. You know, he's got so much more racing ahead of him, so much more mileage.
Yep.
Hey, we might even see him in a World Series seat at some point. But yeah, I mean, look, again, that people that doing the sim racing also doing the real life racing.
Yeah.
You're seeing it crop up more and more often. 20 years ago, to get into professional motorsports, you had to do go-karting, then it became Formula Ford, then it became, that whole ladder, right? These days, you're seeing sim racing crop up as not only an option, but a very viable option.
We
And
have
that's-
crossed a threshold.
We have.
We have crossed a threshold where the simulation is close enough to what it's like in real motorsport that the skills are valid across the both.
Yeah.
That's it. We're at this threshold now. So you are seeing young and up-and-comers coming through that area. And it's also more accessible now than it ever has been. So now is the time to be in esports and sim racing. By the way, this could be you. It could be you in the chair,
This could be
or in our chair. I mean, actually, I quite like this chair.
yeah, I'm
I
quite
think we
comfortable
quite-
here. Don't
yeah.
be in this chair. We do need more commentators.
We
in
do
the
need
world,
more
though.
commentators,
We do need
actually,
more
but
commentators.
you can get involved in sim racing. That's the point that we're trying to make here. Season 3 could be you here. Right, now we do have another
Speaking of
interview
which.
coming up. I think the weird thing with this interview series is that we've also got the feature race winners also happen to be those who are 3-2-1 in the championship as well. So now I get to hand a headset to this man right here, who's going to come into frame. There we go. Lewis, congratulations, mate. P2 in the feature race. and that's P2 in the championship.
Cheers, boys. Yeah, it was quite a hectic, long race. I felt like it'd never end for a minute.
Well, yeah, it was a long race. I mean, it's nearly an hour out there. There's
Yeah.
lots of strategy to be aware of, the boost being a key factor in that. Now, you were involved in that four-way battle. That was super intense. Everyone was hitting that and holding that button all the way through there, right?
Yeah. Well, I think just everyone pulled out one after another. I actually wasn't racing them for position. They were a
Yeah.
pit stop behind, but I was just trying to stay in it. Stay with the draft, not to lose too much time. And yeah.
So, so we got qualifying, right? Qualify well, sprint race, disaster happens. You end up at the back of the grid after the pit lane error. You drive it back to P3, you start P3, you drive it back to P2. You've got to be stoked, mate. That is quite the run in the live finals.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. Wasn't really expecting any of that. I just came here to have fun, and obviously good things happen.
We had a look after the race at sort of who had overboost left in their gauge, and you were one of two guys who had overboost left. Was that on purpose, or was that just a statement piece? I don't need any overboost.
No, not really. I was utilising it when I needed to. I always had up my sleeve, especially at the end. Ben was right there. I didn't use it too much in my opening stint on softs. I sort of let the two boys go and sort it out with themselves and focus on my own race and my own strategy, of course, going softs, hards, and then mediums all the way to the end. So it helped, yeah.
And you're back-to-back runner-up, because you were runner-up last year, you're runner-up this year. This year it was a bit more hard-fought. Last year was second. This year was, a lot more. You had to work for it.
Yeah.
Are we going to see you back next year, and are you going to take the win?
Should be back next year, I enjoy this too much. But yeah, definitely this year was more of, running from the rest and chasing that. But yeah, I'm glad it worked out.
Nah, how good, mate. No, you done awesome job, and you got a lot of fans in the chat. Obviously, they're watching and commenting about your. Bet he didn't practice chasing girls and riding his bicycle. Nah, all good, mate. Well, you go and enjoy the celebrations.
Sweet, man. Can I give a shout out real quick?
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, I'll shout out to the Home Corp Esports, and the IRL as well, Home Corp, and also Ryan Investments, Penrite, Ping Zero, Scarley's, RCIS, Race Cars and Sheds, and GT Planet, and to all the family, mum and dad, and such watching at home, grandpa. Cheers.
Legend, mate. That's Lewis Atkinson, your 2024 runner-up for the NZ Esports Racing Series, and I reckon he'll be back next year.
He'll be back.
Someone's got to take McEwen down a peg.
And he might try and take himself up a peg for all we know. But no, what a great guy. And, at the end of the day, he's had an up and down season, but somehow he's ended up with that, beautiful spot of P2. He gets himself a next level racing cockpit to take home as well. So that's fantastic. Great prize there. I'm sure Ben will be stoked with his prize too. And a familiar silhouette coming into our commentary box here. I'll start off by saying congratulations to our victor of the New Zealand Esports Racing Series Season 2 2024. You are champion, ladies and gentlemen, Matthew McEwen.
Thank you.
You'll be using this. Trust me.
Yeah. We decided that it's better when people could actually hear you, mate. So, look, massive congratulations. Very dominant drive. Without going on for too long, just how was that race?
It was good. It felt good. It just went exactly to plan.
And you were so harsh about the 86, and you were a bit harsh about the Supra. It's the Super Formula car's turn. Favourite? No?
Yeah, it's a good car. I quite enjoy
Finally.
it. Always enjoyed the high aero cars in Gran Turismo. It's kind of a spark for me. Always enjoyed old Group C's and even the LMP cars, basically everything like that. It's just my jam, It's where I first got good, first got competitive, everything basically, and then everything else just kind of followed on from that.
1 out of 3 is not bad. We did talk before about the wind direction and, of course, how it was a bit of a slept-on thing. From what we could see, that was a pretty nasty tailwind into turn 1. So
it was. You just brake a little bit earlier. It didn't seem like it was going to kill you. and the good thing was we were just used to that the whole time. It was there for about 31 laps, and then right at the end it flipped, and I got a penalty because of it at the bus stop. But besides that, yeah, it was nice and stable. You just get used to it. You just drive the same thing over and over again. But it was interesting because on the exit of T1 and the third hairpin, you can floor it, and on the exit of the second and fourth hairpins, you can't. And so you had to be really, really careful. It was really interesting. Nearly died a few times on the exit of the second hairpin.
We saw a few that had some incidents. Le Mans Chicane was not a fun place for everyone out there today.
No.
I think literally everyone picked up a penalty there. There's going to be a lot that we didn't see.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's because the margins are tiny.
Yeah, I got a couple. I got 2, I believe.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about Ben Groves and the situation you ended up with him. So early on in the race, ended up in a little bit of a battle, and then at the end, you come around the Le Mans Chicane and he's in the wall.
Well, I was very surprised to
spun
see
at
him
the
ahead
very
of me. I thought, have I screwed up the strategy or something? But I was thinking, hold on, no, he was a way back when I came in for the second stop. He must be in for a second stop. And then I was starting to run out of confidence because we're getting to lap 30, 31, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? But then about lap 30 or so, we did crash, and there was a bit of a sound, a bit of a roar I heard, something of the sort. And I was thinking, is this actually a battle for position? I'm thinking, I'm really worried. I'm thinking, this is closer than I really ever wanted it to be. And then he did end up coming in for another stop, which made it make sense again. But yeah, he had really, really good pace in the first stint, and I thought that there had been something that I might have missed.
Yeah, and that's got to be something that, as a driver, you've only got 100% mental bandwidth to deal with, right? When those worries start to creep in, you start to reconsider things. Does it take away a little bit from your ability to race, anything like that?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I was trying to spot his strategy, actually. I tried to look back at Lewis's and his screens, but it was just at such an awkward angle that I couldn't really do it. And so I ended up not getting any information. I ended up with some slightly bad information as well, trying to look at Lewis's. I thought he might have been on mediums because he ran his tyres longer than I did on the first stint. So I took some information from that, ended up being wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely could have done with a crew chief, but it is what it is.
Fantastic. We have nothing but superlatives for you, mate. You've done it again. You've had a dominant day today at the live finals. It's a pleasure, as always, to watch you go racing out there, whether it's on our screens here in New Zealand or on the world stage in the Gran Turismo World Series. So, congratulations. You have won, as you well know, the grand prize, Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. It is a real-world factory driver and a real-world car. You've done this before. This is slightly different, though. You must be excited for this grand prize.
Well, I'll try not to spin it again.
That's a great idea. That's a good starting point, I think.
Yeah. I've spun one of those 86s at Hampton. I don't know if I've told you before, but
No.
it's not fun. It's not
Okay.
fun. Bit terrifying, but especially when you got Greg Murphy riding shotgun.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
and you're 15 years old. But anyway, not about that. But look, phenomenal day at the office for you. And what's next for Matthew McEwen?
Well, driving that 86 and hopefully making a good job of it.
Bit of a dumb question, I suppose. Of course I know what's next for Matthew McEwen. But anyway, look, mate, you go and enjoy the celebrations. We'll be seeing you a bit later on too. And
All right.
yeah.
Planning on it.
dominant display.
Massive congratulations, mate. You are our champion. Ladies and
Cheers.
gentlemen,
Thanks, guys.
Matthew McEwen, everyone.
Cheers.
Oh, mate. George, it has been a day.
It has been a day, and it has been a day of Matthew McEwen. And honestly, we make jokes about him winning everything. There is a reason he is where he is. There's a reason why he's won this championship. And if I take a look, let's just have a little look. Let's just have a little backtrack here of the results from Matthew McEwen.
Yep.
Round 1 in the online season goes from P1 to P2. Remember that spin that he had? That Caleb threw?
last-minute shot.
Last-minute shot. Round 2 goes right. P2 goes to P1. All right. Round 3, which is a double header. P1 qualification, wins it. Then drops to P2. Okay.
Yeah.
Round 4, first, qualifying and wins the race. Round 5, first, qualifying, wins the race. Round 6, double header. first in qualifying, wins round one, race one in that round, and then wins the second race.
It really speaks volumes when his worst performance was second.
Exactly,
It-
and this
it-
is my
it
point.
Kind of,
This is my point. So at the end of the day, we can make as many jokes as we like. Matthew McEwen is the fastest Gran Turismo 7 player in New Zealand. Hands down.
Yeah. And until there's someone to challenge him, you know, someone come and challenge him, please.
Well, speaking of challenges, I'm going No, ladies and gentlemen, we're welcome into the commentary booth now Tom England, who has put in, I don't even know how, do I calculate it in thousands of hours or hundreds of thousands of hours? But the effort required to get this racing series organised, talking to sponsors, getting rigs together, organising people, organising these races, the race formats today. Tom England, welcome into the commentary booth. Thank you for all that you've done. That was a really, really entertaining day of racing.
Always is.
Genuinely.
When Matthew McEwen's around, eh?
Yeah.
But I think the mid-pack was actually one of the more exciting parts, to be honest.
We had four-way battle,
Yeah.
3 wide
4
into
wide
turn
on the
one.
straight, I think I
Oh
saw.
my goodness.
Yeah.
So how was your experience of that? You were obviously watching live as well.
It was great. I was out there with the crowd. The crowd was oohing and ahhing a lot, and it was really exciting. And live audience is something special. So really happy to have that. And I think it was a bigger turnout than last year as well. So that's really cool. And a lot of family members. And Ben Groves' dad was just chatting to me out there as well, and he was telling me that they had friends in their car club down south that are watching it at the pub.
Oh,
I thought
fantastic.
that was awesome. They sent him a message showing them that they're watching it on their phones. I was like, that's cool, man. That's real cool.
I think this is one of the cool things about a national competition, whether it's Gran Turismo or whatever the platform is, a national competition. There are so many motorsports fans in this country. There is such a legacy. And Nathan and I were talking earlier, we are at that threshold now where real motorsports and sim motorsports are really coming together.
Yeah, Max Verstappen's testament to that as well. He's winning things in the sim and in real life as case in point, Formula One. But yeah, very cool. I think we need to do a poll for driver of the day today because I don't know who's going to pick who.
That's one thing that we haven't actually done. So it's probably worth doing. What we can probably do, because this thing does not have any internet right now,
No.
I'll figure out some sort of solution. Which will probably involve me having to charge my phone. But I think for now what we can do is we can count it up in chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drop it in chat, your suggestions.
Driver
I
of the
think
day votes.
My suggestion, I have one already. I am a little bit biased, but I'm going to say Lewis because Lewis had that fight back in the first race, prior to the second race, which he just kind of chugged along in the second race, but he ended up coming through with a really solid P2 in the end. So that was really good for him. Ben Groves as well. Ben Groves is a real special one because he came in. He started in Division 2, as we know, and then he got himself promoted to Division 1 with great performances. And he didn't quite qualify for the live finals and came in as a reserve, and here he is in 3rd place. So that's pretty special as well.
Yeah, we talked about this at the start of the broadcast about the floating divisions thing because we didn't do it last year. We didn't do floating divisions, and if you qualified for Division 1, that was it. Those were the people that had a chance, and even the people that won Division 2 never got that promotion, right? So we changed that for this year. There was the floating divisions, and we saw a fair bit of moving and shaking. I don't know the exact numbers of how many people were promoted and relegated, but there was a fair few of them, right?
There was a couple that were bouncing between, but I think overall it was definitely a good implementation because it meant that people like Ben Groves could get themselves up to Division 1 with good performances like that. And that system is the result of feedback from the 2023 series. So just want to throw out there that we really value community feedback and driver feedback and all that sort of things. And speaking of communities, how good was all the community coming together with all the rigs and chassis today?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier on as well. I mean, it's just such a big effort because it's not easy to take apart your rig, to bring it down. There's a lot of effort required in that. We know that we know who those who know who they are, and we thank you very, very much. Honestly, impressive work. And then the hours spent back here as well at Respawn Esports in Wellington. Honestly, incredible what we've got set up in a relatively short amount of time.
Yep. Really special. And really good to see the community banding together. The sim racing community is not very big, but it's strong, so it's really good. And this year we put someone behind the wheel of a factory-supported testing race car, which is going to be really special. So that's going to be in March. at Hampton Downs, thanks to Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand. So that's really exciting, and plenty of other prizes to go out as well. The GT Light going out to Lewis Atkinson. We do have our final results available now, by the way. The spreadsheets have been updated, so we're all good to go.
We had a weird situation that our feature race top 3 finishing order was actually the same order as the overall championships points, so we kind of teed it up and did it all simultaneously. But yes, the final points, of course, available now, and they'll be posted on the Discord in short order as well.
They will. So yes, our top 3 to confirm: Matthew McEwen, the victor, Lewis Atkinson second, and Sly Ben the Cat third place, coming in as a reserve. What a performance! Real special. So a couple of good prizes going out, and a few care packages for some of the guys as well. So they'll be reaping the benefits of their efforts this season.
Exactly, and of course we need to thank our sponsors again. Need to say more thanks because it's just huge effort. Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand, huge shout out to them. Big thanks. Huge prize up on offer today. Matt McEwen's going to be stoked. He's going to have a great time in March. We look forward to maybe getting some photos of that.
Yeah, I think we'll try and aim to have a couple people down there to sort of cover it, do a video and actually, really show what that sort of day is like for him, because that's a massive prize. Massive prize indeed. Then, of course, Next Level Racing, big thanks to them. New Zealand Esports as well for letting us use their logo and their name as well. Secret Lab, Respawn Esports, of course, massive thanks to them as well. And Respawn have just been massive this time.
Yep, Respawn's been great, and I think all of the competitors have enjoyed their time here as well. So far, long may it continue. It's not over yet. I think we're going to head off and celebrate into the night tonight. Everyone's in a very good mood out there, so really good.
Excellent. All right, well, we're going to start to round out the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, last of all, you need to thank this man right here, Tom England, ladies and gentlemen, known as Atom. And he has been absolutely awesome. So thank you so much, Tom England. And go and enjoy yourself. Go and start relaxing. Actually, the relaxing doesn't start. It doesn't actually start just yet. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of work to do still here at Respawn Esports. Right, let me put this other mic down and you take over.
Right, well, go and get rid of that mic. So let's have a look at Driver of the Day votes at the moment, because we've opened up the votes. We're on Twitch and we're on YouTube. We're seeing plenty for Lewis for his awesome comeback, and just generally as Driver of the Day. We're seeing one for Andre there for his flying fastest lap. Of course, that's like I said, that's the one way to show dominance. If you're not going to win the race, take the fastest lap. That's how you make a statement. At the moment, it's pretty much just that. Lewis, Andre, Lewis.
I mean, if I had to cast a die myself, I would honestly say Ben Groves. I think he's a young man who's done incredibly well.
And this is the thing. See, these are the top guys in the country, right? They're all good. They've all had really good stories, So it's and look, it's such a cliche. Everyone's a winner, but they are genuinely these guys. It's been a class act, and we really hope you guys have enjoyed watching it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. It's just such a cool, like you said, long may it continue.
Exactly right.
May it continue. And, we're going to do our best to obviously bring it to you guys again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. We might go into Gran Turismo 8, Gran Turismo 9, whatever. But, it doesn't matter what game we use. The quality of the racing and the quality of the people, that's really the place to be.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So, for those of you who are watching here live and in Wellington at the Respawn Esports Centre, thank you all for being part of the crowd. Thank you to the drivers for making this possible in terms of the entertainment that we've seen today. Thank you to Tom England. Thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you to NZ Esports. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I think a final thank you we can just pat ourselves on the back. I think we just you pat my back, I'll pat your back. There we go. That's how commentators work. It's all about patting each other and ourselves on the back. Nonetheless, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to bring you all the broadcasts here today. My name is George Cook. This is Nathan Howe.
Nathan Howe, yep.
We've had a fantastic time in the commentary box. It's so great watching amazing racers do their thing out there. That is going to be our broadcast today. Thank you all so much for joining us here on all the channels over at NZ Sim Racing TV, over at the Respawn Esports Twitch and YouTube. We apologise for some of the technical interruptions earlier on in the stream. We did end up getting that all resolved, luckily. And there will be a full, complete, uninterrupted copy for your viewing pleasure to watch back later on, probably done maybe this weekend, maybe next week. We'll see. There'll be some social media posts.
We'll do our best to make it seamless. You won't know the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll just see lots of apologies rapidly in a row. That's how that works.
We just randomly started to apologise. Hey, look, sorry guys for the interruption again. We were about to do the outro, but there was another interruption. So sorry guys. All right, much love.
Exactly. So from us here in the commentary booth, thank you so much. We will see you next time. New Zealand Esports Racing Series returns hopefully in 2020. 2025. For now, that has been the Season 2 of this championship. Congratulations to our victors, and we will hopefully see you all next time. Thank you all so much, and goodbye.